Good evening, everyone. This is a regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment for August 21st, 2024. Notice has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and sending a copy to the Montclair Times, Star Ledger, and Herald News. This is a public hearing in which any members of the public are welcome to attend. The meeting agenda is available on the Montclair website, as is a link to the township's YouTube channel where the hearing can be viewed live or after the fact. The hearing is also being televised on Channel 34. And we have one change to the agenda this evening. Application number 2889 for 204 Claremont Avenue, the Montclair Dental Spa LLC, is being postponed till September 18th. Thank you.
Okay, and that's without any further notice.
Yes. All right, I will call roll. Chair Harrison?
Here.
Vice Chair McCullough?
Here.
Mr. Caulfield?
Here.
Mr. Church?
Here.
Ms. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Moore is not here. Mr. Simon is also not here. Mr. Vieira?
Here.
Ms. Grant is not here, as is Mr. Griffith. Mr. Cruz?
Here.
And then Ms. Talley and Mr. Sullivan are here. All right, thank you.
Okay, we have the minutes from the August 7th meeting. I have a couple of changes. On page 4, the second bullet, lines 137 through 140, should be changed to the wording of the condition in the resolution, which is going to change when we do that, but and page 8, let me do an editorial comment. We had for years done the conditions in the resolution and the minutes, and then we switched to what I will call generic conditions. I'm actually happier this way, but doing it this way, the two need to match up. Other than that, evil attorneys like me will seize upon the wording differences and try and be creative. So this should be changed to what will be in the resolution. And again, there'll be one change in that. And then similarly on page 10, the two bullets should be replaced by the conditions in the resolution, which are not going to be changed. Anyone else with any changes to the minutes? If not, someone want to move the minutes with those changes?
I'll move the minutes.
Second.
I'll move the minutes with the changes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain?
And we have the resolution for Prospect Avenue. Number 2 of the conditions, it should be further east on the lot, not south on the lot, because we're shifting it back, which is east. Any other changes to that resolution? If not, someone want to move the resolution with that change?
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain?
We have the resolution for the property on Park Street. I don't have any changes. Does anyone else have any changes? Okay. Someone want to move the resolution as proposed?
I'll move the resolution as proposed.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now, we have the resolution for Grace Point Seventh-day Adventist Church. Going to be troublesome. Okay, so the board knows we imposed a condition that evening, which the applicant agreed to, that the properties be consolidated by deed. The attorney for the applicant said that was a potential problem with their community development block grant requirements in terms of when starting construction. Proposed some other changes. Mr. Sullivan and the attorney had correspondence, which conditions were agreed to, but Mr. Sullivan asked then and asked again today for what the issue was with the Community Development Block Grant, which Mr. Jenkins has not yet responded to. So what I would like to do to condition 4, until Mr. Sullivan throws rocks at me, is to, okay, so the first sentence would stay the same, and then I want to flip the order. So it reads, that the 2 lots shall be consolidated, and a deed of consolidation shall be recorded, continuing with that language through approval by the board attorney. However, and then that whole sentence that remains, but add at the end, but shall be required to be recorded prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
At the end of that paragraph?
Yes. I'll do this slowly, just making sure Mr. Sullivan's okay, and then and then say, provided, however, in the event the applicant demonstrates that the requirement that the lots be consolidated by deed will jeopardize their grant, their CDBG grant, the applicant shall be entitled to impose an access easement between the 2 properties, which shall be recorded subject to review and approval by the board attorney.
Yeah, formalize those encroachments with.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Is that okay?
yes.
Okay. So, first sentence stays the same. And then skip the next sentence and the beginning of the sentence after that, in the event the lots are to be consolidated, and just have it read, the lots shall be consolidated, a deed of consolidation shall be recorded, in the Essex County Register, the rest of that sentence.
Did you get those changes?
You have to listen to the tape.
Okay, and then the last sentence is the same, except adding at the end, but shall be required to be recorded prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. And then, provided, however, if the applicant demonstrates that the deed of consolidation will jeopardize its BG grant, the applicant shall impose an easement, access easements, to formalize the encroachments between the 2 properties, and then continuing, which shall be recorded, et cetera.
Okay. I got it now.
Okay. Anyone else with any changes to that resolution?
Mr. Chairman, this draft resolution is not good. Since you're making that change.
Mr. Church, is your microphone on?
Sorry?
Can't hear.
Everything is the same except for condition 4 is being reworded.
Okay.
And it's basically flipping the order, so it requires that the deeds be consolidated unless they demonstrate that that will jeopardize their grant, in which case they will do an easement.
There were multiple versions of this resolution floating around that may have caused some confusion, but the one that we're working off of, on page 7 in the bottom left-hand corner, it says revised 8/19/2024.
Anyone else with any changes to that resolution or questions on the changes I made? If not, someone want to move the resolution with that change?
I move approval of the resolution with the revisions as noted by the chair.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, and then we have the resolution for the Ball and Master Loan property on Claremont Avenue. I don't have any changes. Does anyone else have any changes? If not, someone want to move that resolution?
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. The first application is 151 Forest Street. I have to recuse myself because I represent an entity that is related to the owner of the property.
All right, our first application is 2892 for 151 Forest Street, the Montclair Cooperative School Incorporated, Block 3307, Lot 29, for a D1 use variance. The application seeks to convert approximately 1,056 square feet of space in the existing commercial building on the property from office space to classroom space to be utilized in connection with the private school operated by the applicant at 65 Chestnut Street. Property is designated on the township tax maps as blocks 3307, lot 29, is located in the R2 two-family residential zone district. They've applied for a use variance pursuant to NJSA 4055D70D1. Although public and private schools are permitted conditional uses in the R2 two-zone family zone, a singular classroom without additional school facilities is not a permitted use in this zone. Is public notice in order, and if there are no taxes, I would presume, in this case?
Yes.
All right, we'll call on Mr. Trembulac. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board. Alan Trembulac, Montclair Real Estate Law Group, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Montclair Cooperative School Incorporated. First of all, I'd like to thank board members for coming out late August meeting. We appreciate it. My client appreciates it, certainly. It's an application that's very important to the school. The Montclair Co-op School is a private school, as many of you I'm sure know, which has been in existence for over 60 years. For the last 42 years or so, the school has operated from its current location at 65 Chestnut Street, which is the corner of Chestnut Street and Forest Street. School serves a student body population of approximately 125 students, ranging in age from 2.5 years to 14 years, which is essentially pre-K through 8th grade. School's divided into 3 different divisions. The younger students in the early childhood program, then you have primary grades, and then what the co-op school refers to as the upper school, or upperclassmen, which is really 5th through 8th grades. The school has entered into an agreement to lease a small portion of the commercial building located at 151 Forest Street, which is directly across the street from the school property. 151 Forest Street, some of you may recall, because that property came before this board about 7 years ago. Property had been purchased by an affiliate of Stephen Plofker, and Mr. Plofker proceeded to make substantial renovations and improvements to what had basically been a warehouse, commercial warehouse building, and has converted it into a nice modern office facility approved by this board in 2017. The school would like to occupy approximately 1,000 gross square feet in the building, and to utilize that space as a classroom with bathroom facilities. It's particularly suitable to the school in addition to its location directly across the street, but the space that they would like to occupy has a separate entrance right on Forest Street, and the space is, although the building is attached, it's essentially separated from the rest of the office building. So it's an ideal location given the standalone entrance and the proximity to the school directly across the street. The property is located in the R2 zoning district, which actually permits schools as a conditional use. Now, we don't view this as a school, since it's really just a classroom and an accessory bathroom to the classroom, not really a school, but it's certainly a school use. But we view this as a straight D1 use variance, which is the relief we're seeking from the board tonight. That's the only relief we're seeking. We don't require any other variances, and the application doesn't require site plan approval, just a D1 use variance. So I have two witnesses to present this evening. My first witness will be Tammy Mata, who is the chairperson of the School Board of Trustees. Following her testimony, I'll present expert testimony from Richard Keller, our professional planner. I would like to note before we begin that the head of the school, Anna Youngblood, who's passionately in support of this proposal, really wanted to be here tonight to testify on behalf of the school, but unfortunately she's recuperating from some recent medical procedures and she could not be here tonight. So we have the chairperson of the board stepping in. Unless the board has any preliminary questions for me, I'd ask that Tammy Mata be
Well,
sworn.
Mr. Trevielak, let me just call to your attention, you did indicate this is a D1 use variance. You see we have 6 board members sitting. You are required to get 5 affirmative votes for approval. I assume you want to go forward.
We
Is that
want to go
correct?
forward. We'll decide after the testimony whether to go to a vote or not, but we're hopeful of completing the application tonight.
And I would like to swear in the board professionals, Ms. Talley and Ms. Casme, for the 3 applications we're going to hear tonight. Would you both raise your right hands? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
Just state your names and position with Montclair.
Janice Talley, the Director of Planning.
Zainab Ghazni, Assistant Planner.
Okay, and I will swear you in. Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
Just give us your name and address.
Tammy Mata, 145 Morningside Road, Verona, New Jersey.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Mata, what is your relationship to the Montclair Co-op School?
So I'm the chair of the Board of Trustees of the school, and I have a daughter who is in the 5th grade at the school and a son who graduated from the co-op in 2022.
Okay. And how long have you been on the Board of Trustees at the school?
I've been on the board for 6 years, and this is going to be, I've been the chair of the board for 5 years.
Okay. So I'd like to begin by asking you to, tell the board a little bit of information, some basic background information regarding the Montclair Cooperative School. First of all, when was the school established?
The school was founded in 1963, and it was founded by Loretta Freeman, who had a vision to create a place where children of different races and religions could play together. And so that ethos is carried through to the school as it is in its current iteration. We have founded on the principles of social justice, equity, inclusion, and we create a nurturing and diverse space for our students to grow into the best versions of themselves and to be positive and contributing members of any community to which they belong.
Okay. And the co-op school is a private school, correct?
It is.
So parents who send their children to the school pay a tuition, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And you may have already just answered this question, but I was going to ask if you could explain what the mission or the educational philosophy of the school is.
So our school is really focused on the whole child, making sure that each child knows exactly who they are, who they can become, and also make sure that they positively contribute to the community. This means that they are given opportunities to develop exceptional social skills. Also, we have a very academically rigorous program, and all of our, we are a progressive school, which means that our lessons integrate different aspects of, math, science, English, social studies, into a robust social curriculum that goes through from early ages all the way through the 8th grade.
Okay, great. And the school is currently located at 65 Chestnut Street, correct?
Correct.
That's at the corner of Chestnut and Forest Street, correct?
Correct.
And how long has the school operated from that location?
Since the 1980s.
Okay. Does the school have any other buildings that it utilizes other than the building at 65 Chestnut?
Yes, we currently rent 2 storefront properties as well as the gardens behind those properties, which are adjacent to our schoolyard playground
Okay, and they're on Forest Street?
on Forest Street as well.
Okay, same side of the street as the school?
Correct.
Okay. And how many students are currently enrolled in the school?
Approximately 120.
Okay, and what are the ages of the student body?
Our students range from 2.5 in our early ages program up to 14, those children who are in the 8th grade.
Okay, and is the school or the student body divided into different divisions or programs, if you will,
Yes.
based on age?
Yes, we have an early childhood program that goes from our early ages through kindergarten program, our primary school program, which is our 1st through 4th grades, and then our upper school, which is the 5th through 8th grade.
Okay. And does the school follow essentially the same school calendar as Montclair Public School System?
Yes,
So September to June,
Correct.
basically. And you already mentioned briefly the school's basic curriculum is similar to what's covered in the Montclair public school system, is that right?
yes, so
Yeah.
in terms of, math, science, English, social studies, integrated throughout, and of course, themes of social justice, equity, inclusion, as well as a very heavy civic responsibility. So you'll often see our children walking through the neighborhood, picking up litter, the idea being that they leave their community better for their being a part of it.
Are those the characteristics that you would say distinguish or differentiate the co-op school from a more traditional public school environment?
Yes.
Okay. There's also an emphasis, correct me if I'm wrong, on the parental involvement, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Certainly. So we, as a co-op community, includes the children and their families, and so parents are heavily involved. They often do parent assists in the classroom. They go on field trips. They serve on the board, and they do a number of kind of community projects for the school, whether that be gardening, painting. Sometimes certain parents will do different elective programs, talk about their cultures and heritage, and if they have different professions that will guide our students, then we also have them participate as well.
Okay, great. All right, so now I'd like to talk about the space that you would like to occupy at 151 Forest Street. Has the school entered into a lease for that location?
Yes,
And I assume the lease is contingent upon getting this board's approval
yes,
to operate this from that location, correct?
correct.
Okay. And where specifically is 151 Forest Street in relation to the co-op school?
It's directly across the street on Forest Avenue.
Okay. And how much space are you proposing to rent in that building?
Approximately 1,000 square feet.
All right. And how do you intend to utilize that space?
This space will be used as our STEAM lab, so it'll integrate science and art and technology, part of our efforts to innovate our curriculum and provide really beautiful space for our children. It's bright, it's sunny, it's light, and can be used so that children can really immerse themselves in their work.
Okay. Can you discuss why it is that the school needs this additional space in a separate building as opposed to reconfiguring the existing building or perhaps expanding the existing building?
The space is really well-suited for the STEAM lab that we want to operate there, or for the children. It allows us to move from a current basement space that we use for science up into a bright, airy space. It also is less disruptive than building on top of our annex building on our campus, which would disrupt the neighborhood and our operations. And it's really ready to go. So it's an opportunity to have space. We also get 3 additional parking spaces, which will alleviate parking spaces on the street as well, and really goes within the ethos of our philosophy of being positive contributors to the community.
Okay. Again, you may have covered this in some of your answers already, but I'd like you to explain, if you can, aside from the obvious proximity to the school, what it is about this particular location that attracted you to it.
It's the fact that it's a self-contained area. It's your classroom with the bathroom facility in that space, so that the children can be there for their lessons. Really, it was attractive to us. As I mentioned earlier, our kids are out and around the community every day. They are, whether they're going to the Human Needs Pantry to make their weekly contributions or going to the soccer dome for a gym class, it really fits into being an active part of the community. And as I said, the space is really beautifully appointed, very bright and airy. It's an open space that the children will be able to use, and we don't have to do much in terms of bringing our equipment and materials over to that space.
Was it also a consideration or a positive factor in that this space has its own separate standalone entrance from Forest Street?
Yes, it faces Forest Street. It has one door in and out, and so it's a place that we can monitor well, make sure that it is self-contained and not subject to the busy comings and goings from the other businesses that are in the area,
Okay.
in that facility.
Okay. And your architect has provided floor plans, which the board has, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we've already stated this, but the floor plans indicate that there would be one classroom and a bathroom.
Correct.
And I believe a closet, correct?
Correct.
And was there any ability to access any other space within the other office building from this location?
No.
Okay, so children would enter from Forest Street, the entrance door, Forest Street, and leave through that same door to go back?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
So there would be no impact from the children or interaction between the children and the remainder of the office building, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, so you indicated that the intention is to utilize this classroom for science and art, technology. Okay, and what age group of students would be utilizing that classroom?
It would be for our 5th to 8th grade students,
Okay, and their ages would be?
11
again?
years old through 14 years old.
Okay. And how many classes would take place in that space on an average day?
4 classes.
4? Okay. And do you know approximately how many students would be in each class?
So our 5th through 8th grades, they have varying numbers. So in our 5th grade, we have 7 students. In our 6th grade, we have 18 students. In our 7th grade, we have 14 students. In our 8th grade, we have 9 students. So they would be using that facility. So approximately 9 to 10 students in groups at a time, or I should say 7 to 10 students at a given time.
Okay. By the way, let me just get this out of the way. Does the school intend to hire any additional faculty or staff as a if it were to expand into this building at 151 Forest Street?
No.
Okay. Do you anticipate any increase in your student enrollment as a result of having this additional classroom?
No.
Okay. All right, then, all right. So, in order for the students to get to this classroom, they're going to have to cross Forest Street, correct?
Correct.
I think you indicated in your testimony a few minutes ago that students are out and about all the time, given the nature of your curriculum and the philosophy of the school, correct?
Correct.
So, and how many times per day, if you can, say, that students are leaving the school building and crossing over to Forest Street?
Quite a few times a day. The students will utilize the playground next to the Clary skating rink. They may use the open space across the street. They may walk over to the soccer dome. They make visits to the human needs pantry. And they also, our early ages kindergartners will also go over to the firehouse quite frequently as well. They also go to the senior center over on Walnut Street. So they're out and about quite a bit and cross over, similar to Renaissance School or Montclair High School. They cross over Chestnut Street, Forest Street on Chestnut Street quite frequently. In fact, our students have been doing this for so long that they petitioned the town to create a 4-way stop sign at that intersection to make it more safe, not only for themselves, but for the other students who regularly use that crosswalk.
Okay. So, since this is happening fairly often, in terms of children leaving, what I'll say, the campus, if you will, going off campus to parks, human needs, food pantry, wherever, does the school have any procedures or protocols in place for when that happens?
Yes, so our curriculum and the way that our school is set up, we have a head teacher and an assistant teacher in every class, so our students are constantly supervised. That's in addition to the parents who may be assisting on that day. So when they are crossing the streets as they're walking through the neighborhood, they are with a head teacher, an assistant teacher, or possibly one of our specialist teachers. So that would be our phys ed teacher, our music teacher, depending on which teacher is with the students at the time. So they've done this for many, many, many years. That's been the protocol. Our students are very, very aware of being safe in terms of traffic. They know not to even cross our parking lot. I've been admonished by my 5th grader for walking across it instead of walking through the walkways more than once, I'm ashamed to say. And so it really is ingrained in them to be mindful of how they navigate the neighborhood.
Okay. And these groups of students that are navigating the neighborhood and crossing over to the other side of Forest Street, are they all of the age groups in the school?
All of the age groups, yes.
Okay, including the younger ones?
Including the younger
obviously.
ones.
Okay, and the classroom at 151 Forest Street would be utilized solely for the older students, ages 11 to 14, correct?
Correct.
By the way, is there any intention for students, coming to the school or leaving the school to be picked up or dropped off at 151 Forest Street?
No, all students are required to check in at the front desk, depending on the time that they get there. So they're all walking through that front entrance. So if a student is arriving to school late and their class is already in that STEAM lab, they would still need to come to check into the school first, and then one of the faculty members or staff members will walk them across the street to their school. It's a similar practice that we have. If students are in gym in the annex, they have to first come and check in at that front desk before they go to join their class.
Okay. So are you aware of any incidents which have occurred where students were either injured or came close to being injured while crossing Forest Street or any of the other streets to go to the various places that you've indicated happen on a regular basis?
No.
Okay. And would you attribute that to the fact that there's the supervision provided and the coordination and the training, if you will, of the students as to how to go about traversing the street in a safe manner?
Yes, I would.
Okay. I think you already mentioned the fact that your lease includes 3 parking spaces on 151 Forest Street, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much. We'll now go to questions from the board. We'll begin with Mr. Caulfield.
Hi,
Hello.
thank you for coming. If I was a student and I had a class in the main building and the period rang and I was supposed to go to the STEM lab, will I just go that myself, or would someone walk me over?
No, they all go together. So we have 10-minute breaks in between the classrooms, and so they're moving together as a group. So they don't wander the building or go through the building themselves. They go in different groups with a teacher.
Okay, so it'd be a pod of people going
Correct.
that way. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Church?
Yeah, when we approved this, an application for that building some years ago, there was a lot of discussion about traffic accumulating on the street between the properties. Is that traffic abated, or is it the same? There was a lot of discussion about drop-offs on the street, and do they still drop off on that street?
Oh, do you mean for the school?
Yes,
itself?
for the
But we
school.
use a car line in the morning so that they're dropping off on campus. They enter through the driveway.
Okay, so the students going to this new building for art and so forth would be doing so at the end of those drop-offs?
Right. So they would have gone to their homeroom classes or to their classrooms, and thinking 5th to 8th grade now, excuse me. So they'll go to their homeroom classes first, and then when it's time for science or art, then the teacher will walk them over. So that'll be
Okay.
after that.
So that's after that?
Yes,
So there's less traffic?
correct. And we
And
also have the
the-
3 parking spaces.
Yeah, the traffic on Chestnut Street going by the other way is very busy most of the day. You have a restaurant on the other corner that's utilized. Does that affect the safety of the kids at all? I heard your testimony that, no problems have ensued, but these things don't always stay the same.
Yeah, so Chestnut Street has been a bit busy for quite some time, quite a
Right.
few years, and I've been with the school, oh my goodness, my family's been affiliated with the school for coming up to 20 years. My nephews went there as well. So that Chestnut Street has always been busy with the 3 schools in
Right.
the area and the sports facility, the
Right.
skating rink. That's one of the reasons why the students themselves advocated for the four-way stop sign, to make it more safe. I will tell you that the issue wasn't necessarily crossing Forest Street, which is what our students will be doing now. It was going across Chestnut, which is why we needed the four-way. We always had a stop sign on Forest Avenue. It was the traffic adjacent to it that caused the issue. So it's not going to increase the use of that. These are still the same number of students crossing the street to go to the classroom instead of, per se, crossing the street to go to the park as they
Okay.
do on a daily basis.
Has the school approached the town about marking, like a pedestrian markings, so the kids can have something to walk in, like white lines or something like that from the school to this new facility,
You mean
across the street?
instead of in the crosswalk itself?
I think the question is, are the students, if they're crossing Forest Street, is that within a crosswalk?
Yeah, it's a
Yes, it is.
crosswalk type thing. There is a crosswalk there,
Yes,
marked.
yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Harris?
I have no questions. I think all my questions were answered by the testimony.
Thank you. Mr. Vieira?
Hi, good evening. I do have a question regarding the entrance. So is the entrance going to be dedicated for the students, or will that be shared with the occupants?
It'll be just for the students. It's one door. The other, the building actually, or this classroom sits back a bit from the rest of the building, and so their entrances are on this side, to the right. And this is one door that's facing on Forest Avenue, while the other entrances for the other businesses face a parking lot that their patrons need to walk into to get to. So this is actually forward-facing. You can see it from across the street of the school, and it's only one door for them, designated for them.
Designated, okay. And the three parking spaces that will be used by staff? I
Staff,
guess?
correctly.
Yeah, okay.
Correct.
And the other question I had is, in general terms, can you describe what types of activities happen in the STEM lab, like robotics or, using power tools or,
I would hope not power tools. I'll answer a bit. I'm not a science teacher. Our science teacher's here, though, if you want to ask her. But, just a number of different types of experience, art projects. I'm excited for it. My daughter will be participating in this, but I don't have the background to describe the specific projects.
I guess the question, and this might not be for you, but there was a comment in the planning report about the code compliance for educational facilities, which might be different of what the current outfit is, in what's currently outfitted for the current use. That was my question, but all right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cruz?
Yes, hello, good evening. I guess I just had a question about the crosswalk. Now, I know that predominantly the students will use the Forest Street crosswalk to cross the street. Was there any discussion or consideration amongst the parents to propose a crosswalk directly from the school to the new building?
No, I don't, we don't really encourage people to use that cross, because it's the two parking lots are right across from each other.
Mhm.
So it wouldn't be safe, given where they are, for us to direct traffic or pedestrian traffic there.
Okay.
We really tell people to use the crosswalk, not to jaywalk, just because of the visibility, wanting to be good neighbors. There are a lot of residential, we're in a residential community, and so disrupting car traffic at that point where they're not expecting it, it just didn't cross our mind to do that.
Right. And then I guess my other question would be, you mentioned you've been affiliated with the school for quite some time. With all of the changes that the town's been going through, have you noticed an uptick in parking troubles or a lack of parking availability for maybe someone like the parent-teacher assistants or?
No, it's definitely fun to park around 3 p.m. dismissal of the three schools, but that's been pretty pretty steady. You know, you kind of get there early to find a spot, and if you time it right, there are groups of students that are leaving and then you're coming in. So it's tight in the area, but there hasn't been more.
So it hasn't gone to the point where it's I guess I would say like unmanageable.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's fair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. A couple of questions. I would imagine that the exercise of petitioning the town for the four-way stop was an exercise of civic engagement for the students?
It was. They wrote their statements, they presented them, they did their study, or requested the study in advance of that, so it really fits in with the curriculum. It's what makes our curriculum, I think, so amazing. If the children find something that they're interested in, our teachers will adjust the curriculum to fit it into what they need to accomplish at whatever developmental stage they're at, but really they'll hone in on that interest. When my son was in the first grade, they became fascinated with squirrels, and so they were sewing squirrel costumes and doing observations under a blanket and talking about the anatomy of squirrels. So it's really what makes the school wonderful.
Mhm. So just to review, in terms of the exercise of crossing from the main building to the proposed classroom, would you explain to the board exactly what would be the route that the students and their faculty members would take in order to successfully cross the road 4 times during the course of the, well, a total of 8 times, really?
Sure. So we have 2 entrances that face the street in our building. So they would either leave out of the Chestnut Street side and walk directly across up Chestnut across Forest Avenue and then over to the right to 151. Or if they were leaving from our Forest Street entrance, then they would exit the building, make a left, walk up to the Chestnut Street intersection, cross over Forest Avenue, and then walk back down to 51.
So in every case, they would be using the existing crosswalks?
Correct.
You mentioned also that there are 3 parking spaces at 151. Those would be utilized by?
Faculty and staff.
And then finally, you mentioned that the 5th through 8th grades, which is the upper school, would be utilizing this space. Do you anticipate in any way that the lower school would be utilizing this space at any time?
No, the equipment really isn't for them. They don't use the science room now. They do their lessons in their classrooms. So it's not really for them at that, so they'll move up to that at 5th grade.
So, Mr. Tremblay, would there be any opposition to the board imposing a condition that limited the use of this classroom to the upper school?
No, that's the intention, so there'd be no objection to that condition.
All right, thank you. Are there members of the public that would have any questions for this witness? You're welcome to come forward and offer any questions. All right. Thank you, Ms. Mata. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. My next witness is Richard Keller.
Mr. Keller, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes, I do.
Name and address, please.
Richard Keller. My business address is 258 Main Street, and that's in Millburn, New Jersey.
Rich, you've testified before this board in the past. I can't remember the last time you testified with me, but not too recently. But in any event, for the benefit of the newer board members at least, if you could just provide a brief summary of your educational background and your professional qualifications.
Certainly. Good evening. I have appeared before this board as well as the planning board a number of times, but as I said, not recently. I am licensed as an engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey. I've been licensed as both since 1990. I hold a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering with a declared concentration in water resources and environmental engineering, and that is from Rutgers University. And I also hold a Master's of Architecture with a concentration in urban planning and design, and that is from the New Jersey Institute of Technology, where I was also an adjunct professor for approximately 11 years in the architecture department in both graduate and undergraduate divisions.
I have appeared as before approximately 110 boards throughout the state of New Jersey. I've offered professional planning services to the Borough of Caldwell Planning Board and Board of Adjustment, and I have offered, for 3 years, I was the engineering consultant to the Township of Long Hill, both the Planning Board and Board of Adjustment. My licenses are in good effect, having just finished another 15 hours of training, and it's nice to be back before this board.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Offering Mr. Keller as an expert in the area of professional planning. Yes, thank you. Rich, you're familiar with the property and the application that's before the board this evening?
Yes.
Correct? All right, and you were engaged in order to provide your professional evaluation regarding the variance that's being sought tonight?
Yes, we have.
Okay, so with that introduction, you want to present your findings and conclusions to the board. I assume you're going to start with a discussion of the property?
Yep. What I'd like
Okay.
to do is because a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I think it'll answer some of the questions that were asked already. So if we go, I have an exhibit, is site photographs.
You need the microphone. It should be right there. Just turn it on.
I have an exhibit that's on the board. There are 4 photographs. The exhibit is labeled Site Photographs, Montclair Cooperative School, 151 Forest Street, and is dated today, August 21st, 2024.
You're going to mark that as A1?
Correct. If I go to the first page, the annotated aerial photograph.
Do you have copies, Mr. Tremulak, to hand out, or?
I don't. I thought it'd be a little larger. I may have a couple.
I apologize. I normally would bring the set, but I was out of the office a good part of the day today.
I have 3 that I can share.
Okay, let me just get one. We give one, oops, one to planning department.
So the, and I can blow that up a little bit, obviously. So if we look at the, if we go to the existing site, the property itself is located, on this photograph, it should be working, let me just say. It's not really appearing well on the board. At any rate, let me see, got another one here. Yep, it's better. Okay. It's one of those days, my 5th meeting in 3 nights, it's starting to show. So the property itself, on this photograph, north is to the bottom, south is to the top. You can see Chestnut Street along the bottom of the photograph. There's the railroad tracks. You can see the Fortunato Field where the soccer field is. My firm actually did the design of the soccer field, as well as some other structures in the Woodman complex. The cross street being Forest Street. You can see on the corner is the Montclair Cooperative School. At the intersection, there's a crosswalk coming up. You can see in yellow is the property in question at 151 Forest, and that is approximately 35,600 square feet property that has a 2-story and 1-story building that occupies the majority of the northerly portion of the site. On the southerly side of the site, there's a driveway that acts as a 36-car parking lot. And because of that traffic issues and drop-off, et cetera, that existed on Forest Street, when this was approved as the conversion from a warehouse into office, the egress is through the back on Erie Street, because there's a small presence on Erie Street. So this is one-way traffic in, and this is the area where somewhere within there would be three spots available for faculty and staff only for the cooperative school. But you can see that there are crosswalks around the entire intersection where there's now 4 stop signs, and you can see that there's the annex and there's the primary school. Students would come out of either the annex or they come out of the primary school on Chestnut, come to the corner. They again would muster with their teachers coming from another class. They would either come down the street from the annex or come directly across diagonally across the path, across, over and up. The distance from this intersection up to the front door is about 175 feet, or about 250 feet from door to door. from the Montclair Cooperative, so about 83 yards, so less than a football field away. And we're about 350 feet or so from the annex door, coming all the way down to the intersection. So again, they're manageable distances, and they, as indicated, they have an existing protocol where children, even in the upper grades, never cross these streets unless they're accompanied by an adult, whether going to their gym, they're going to the skating facility, or they're moving into the town to go to the park or the fire station. They're always accompanied by an adult, at least one teacher, if not two, and they muster and they cross as a pack, as was indicated earlier. I forget the term that was used, but they cross as a group and up into the space. That building itself is 14,300 square feet with about a 4,000 square foot second floor mezzanine. But what's unique about this, as indicated, is the area where the school is looking to lease that one classroom is really isolated. It looks different. This is actually part of the architect's drawings. Again, you can see North Fullerton. You can see it's hard to see in the school on this one, but we'll go right to the next picture. There we go. As was discussed, you can see that as you come into the area, this one-story area where they're looking to lease that space, it really feels as a different building. It's isolated. It has a nice little courtyard in the front. It's set back 10 feet from the main line of the building, and it is completely isolated from the parking lot, which is, as was indicated in the prior questioning, it really makes it uniquely suited and particularly suited for the proposed use, because it is completely isolated from both the traffic coming in to go to the offices. There's no shared access to the primary offices. There's no sharing of bathroom space. This really functions as its own individual entity with its own bathrooms and no connectivity into the main space. So it really acts as a separate building altogether. This is the photograph from the corner at the intersection of Chestnut and Forest Street. I'm standing right where the crosswalk starts, and you can see there's the building right there.
So is this a separate exhibit now we're going to need to...
This is all part of the same...
We're going to say all four photographs are combined as A1.
That's correct.
Okay.
So this is photograph number 3. There was the aerial, and there's 3 additional photographs. This is Forest Street looking south. You can see there's a FedEx. I was there on a Sunday. I've been there maybe during class hours as well as on the weekends. I've been maybe 3 times since I was retained to see how this all operates, how traffic operates, where children will cross the street, daily traffic patterns, and clearly at the intersections with the 4-way stop, it is a safe and controlled intersection. And you can see from the photograph from the corner, so I'm about 30, 40 feet from the entrance to the school. I'm at the crosswalk. I cross over, and it's not a far walk to walk up to the building, which has its own little entry plaza. I believe I've got one more. Oh, that's my last photograph. Yeah. Okay. So as was indicated, this application proposes to convert that office space into a classroom. It is about 798 net square feet, with including the bathroom. The gross is up to about 1065 square feet. It does include the separate bathroom and closet space, which are completely isolated. And as indicated, it is accessed solely through that one door. So whenever we have a D1 variance, and this is a D1 variance because it's located in the R2 residential zone that permits 2-family houses, and schools are permitted as a conditional use. We're not arguing this is a full-blown school, and we're not arguing that it's a deviation from the conditions of a conditional use. We see this as a pure D1 variance. On any D1 variance, or any variance, you need to demonstrate that you meet the positive and the negative criteria. And to meet the positive criteria in support of a D1 variance, you need to specifically show that you advance the purposes of the Land Use Act. Item number 1, or A, under 4055 D2A, is general welfare. And general welfare can be advanced through either one of two means. The first is that if you're inherently beneficial use, then you presumptively meet the positive criteria. And municipal land use law does define schools as inherently beneficial, a use which is universally considered of value to the community because it fundamentally serves the public good and promotes general welfare. So we certainly think that this is, that dovetails with that, but it's only a small portion of the school. The other way of advancing special purposes, the special reasons, is if you're not inherently beneficial, is you need to demonstrate that the use is particularly suited, or the site is particularly suited for the proposed use. So particular site suitability can also advance general welfare. We do think that this site is particularly suited for the proposed use, as was indicated by the board director. The location, as was indicated, is directly across from the existing school. As I indicated, 175 feet from the intersection, 250 feet door to door. So location is certainly key. The nature of the space, as we indicated, was also critical in that it did have that separation, as we indicated, from the rest of the office building. It appears separate because it really does function separately. Got the complete segregation from the parking area. It's got that small courtyard in the front, which is off the sidewalk. So if there's any, as the 8 to 10 kids are getting in, they're well off the sidewalk as they muster and to get into the space. It is light-filled in area. It's on the north side of the building, so it's got a lot of glass, which means it gets a lot of light, but no direct sunlight, so no heat gain. So it's really a light and airy environment, and certainly better than the cramped and dark space that's currently used in the existing building. And that open retail space appearance, because if you look at that, it really does look as though it's retail. That really reinforces the Montclair Cooperative Schools' belief that the school should integrate into and be part of the community. So there's a little bit of visual. If you're walking along the side, you can actually see kids in there into that space, which I think is, again, gives those kids a sense of community. Also, particular site suitability is sort of the lack of suitability or difficulty in this space being used as office. It has been rented periodically, but to very specialized users. It's a small space. Most commercial users don't like the fact that it's separate from the parking lots. You've got to go around the corner. It's small in its size, and again, it has more of a retail space appearance than an office. So we think that the site is particularly suited for the proposed use, which advances the general welfare portion of the master plan goals. As to the negative criteria, if you're an inherently beneficial use, your only obligation to the negative criteria is what's called the 4-point SECA balancing test, which also serves as kind of a guideline for the negative criteria if you're not inherently beneficial also. The first is that you must identify the stake, the public interest in the stake. I think this is the school is an integral part of this community for a long time. This provides for classroom expansion of the existing cooperative school without the need for expanding the existing building, which would either add additional mass into that corner. It would possibly involve the loss of parking, which would put more parking pressure on the street, and it would increase impervious runoff and coverage. So I think it's always a benefit to the community when you can utilize existing underutilized space rather than building new, and with all the negatives that come with the additional massing. The SECA balancing test also says you should identify any detrimental effects that would ensue. And I think there are no detrimental effects because the school has been very careful with their protocols to make sure that safety is advanced. No one is more concerned about the safety of those students than the school itself and the way they run. There really is no detrimental impact because the students already walk and are escorted throughout the neighborhood, as was indicated for sports, whether it's Fortunato Field, Soccer Domain, Rand Park, the fire station, et cetera. Those safety protocols are always in place. There will never be a student that has arrived at school, checked in, and then will be able to cross that street without being accompanied by a teacher and an assistant teacher. And I would point out mid-block crosswalks are among the most dangerous you can find. There's a mid-block crosswalk in Milburn with a traffic light in the downtown near Live Breads, and there are people who run that red light every day. They go around cars stopped at the light, and they take the third lane and they drive right through it because people just don't expect to see mid-block crosswalks or mid-block signals or mid-block lights. So it's really always safest to get all the students up to the corner where people expect to see a crosswalk, they expect to see stop signs. It's much safer. We also need to, and there's also the benefit, obviously, of the 3 leased parking spaces that come to be used for faculty. And then, again, that balancing test says that are there any reasonable conditions that the board could impose? And I think Vice Chair McCullough, already asked if we would be willing to stipulate that it would be only used for the upperclassmen, and that's consistent with their goal, and we would have no problem. I think that's a very reasonable condition. And then finally, on balance, does the granting of the variance cause any substantial detriment to the public good? And we certainly feel that it doesn't. If you're not deemed inherently beneficial, it's pretty much very similar. You need to demonstrate the 2 prongs, that there's no substantial detriment to the public good, and there's no substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the master plan. We believe that there is no detriment to the public good for the reasons I just stated. With regard to the master plan, this is, I got to say, you guys keep us planners on our toes because you update your master plan so often. It's up to August, up to March of last year. But I have to say, I really love reading your master plan because it's really comprehensive, and I'm not just blowing smoke. I think it's, I've always been impressed with the way you're not afraid to update things. As I said, keeps us on our toes. But when I read through the master plan again today, I could find nothing that was really contrary. In fact, a lot of your master plan talks about increasing the walkability of the town. And this is certainly what this Montclair Cooperative does. They use those streets, they put the kids in the streets in a safe manner, and that's what you want in your town. It's a goal of your master plan. On section 2-2 of your land use section on page 32 talks about walkable environments. And then if you're not deemed to be inherently beneficial, you do have an enhanced quality of proof, then we did reconcile the omission of this use from the master plan. And generally, the argument is either the use is so new that no one would have thought of it, or in this case, it's a previously considered unapproved use because schools are an accepted use as a conditional use, but sometimes these uses evolve to a degree that was not contemplated. And certainly, I don't think anyone contemplated the need for a satellite classroom space, which actually reinforces both your master plan and is consistent with the ethos of the school to have a satellite classroom space near the school. Again, it's consistent with the community integrated educational imperative that's embraced by the co-op. It's part of their ethos, and it's really kind of consistent with your own master plan. So I think that, again, it's a hyper-specialized use, so it wouldn't be necessarily contemplated by your master plan. We think that it's a good application. It's a safe application. We think it does everything good, and we think it helps a really wonderful educational environment to continue to flourish within your community. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll turn to Mr. Church.
I have any questions.
Ms. Harris?
I'm not sure if this question's for this witness or Ms. Mott, but just looking at that elevation and that it's so accessible to the street, what are the plans to limit entry to the space? I know most schools you have to go see reception before you enter the building. What's stopping the public from entering the space?
Well, yeah, it's really through the. Can you answer that?
Can you answer Ms. Harris's question?
I can.
If you
so-
can speak into the microphone. Yeah, thank you.
So our doors have key codes on them, so they lock automatically, and then we also have cameras so that we're monitoring the entire campus. So that would go across the street as well.
Okay. And then are you planning any signage on this building?
Yes. Probably on the top. Yes.
It's there,
Like
right?
a banner, yeah.
You have it, you have signage on the building now.
On the outside building.
Yeah.
On this building, is there signage already?
I thought,
On the
Are you-
satellite?
are you
Not
ref-
currently.
not currently, not on the building itself, but we have, we put up a banner on, possibly, what we do on the storefronts is that we have a logo on the glass window.
Okay,
so-
you need to get a zoning permit from, because a banner's not an acceptable sign. So that would be a separate, you could just get a zoning permit for that.
If they do a
If they
banner.
do it,
I don't
if they
think
do a
they'll do,
banner.
I don't think it'll be a banner.
Right, if it's a window sign.
There's a
that's-
leasing
There's
banner
a-
up there now.
Yes.
Yes.
There is a small plaque sign, and there is some window signage. Currently, this is actually a couple years old, this photograph. It's taken from Google Street View. But there is a plaque sign, and there is some window signage now.
Okay, thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Vieira?
I do have a question. You mentioned during your testimony about crosswalk in the middle of the street. Was that evaluated as part of this project?
No, but I would have highly recommended against it. I think that the board recognized that if you tried to put a crosswalk at this location, it would be too close to the ingress driveway for the office, as well as the ingress and egress from the parking lot that's near the annex. So it's too close to too many turning movements to warrant it safely. But even if those weren't there, we never recommend mid-block crossings, only with a light, and even with a light, they're not safe.
Thank you.
Mr. Cruz?
No questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Caulfield?
Do you think, I don't know, I mean, do we need two means of egress for this space in some way, or no?
Well, I think it's a code issue, and it's small enough that it does not need it. But obviously, assuming that we get approval tonight, this would have to go to the building department, and they would evaluate whether it meets all building codes, safety codes, as it relates to assembly and school facilities. So, but it's small enough. No, this could be double the space and not require two means of egress, but certainly for this size. But again, this will go through your building department and go through extensive code review before, and if for some reason it fails on something, they'll either need to make those modifications. There's really no ability to add a second means of egress, so the application would kind of would collapse at that point.
Okay. And you're not necessarily, I mean, schools are different compared to an office building or something like that. I mean,
Correct.
just in general. But you don't fear that, having another form of egress of any type of thing that happened there would be,
No,
it's not going to be used as much as like a classroom, like constantly? in that
Yeah, but it's
sense?
an 800 square foot space, so I think you're never more than 25 feet to the door.
Mhm.
I think your acceptable path is probably double that, even for a school.
Mhm.
So I think you're close enough that would not be required. And
Okay.
again, that'll go through your fire code review and your building.
Yeah, I'm more like, just, we have to go through, shooting drills and all that stuff in schools, and I'm talking about that. A building department will never pick that up at all. My concern is just that.
Well, practically, we're essentially on the property line, so we
Mm.
can't really egress, and we wouldn't want to egress into that driveway that's to the left, to the north of the building. And you wouldn't really, for safety purposes, it's also just better to have one entrance.
There's an agreement to have an easement on that driveway side on the.
Yeah, that could be, I wasn't aware of that,
Okay,
but I don't
on
know
the
if what
plans
that
here.
easement permits, whether it permits pedestrian egress or just vehicular. But either way, the space is so small, it would not be required.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Just a question about the space itself. I'm assuming, since you didn't address any need to do any renovations within the space itself, that the building pretty much will be occupied as is?
That's my understanding. There was nothing on the plans that called for that. It's relatively new space, and it's in relatively good shape. So I don't think anything needs to be done. It's essentially move-in, as far as I understand. If that was something, nope.
Well, there's
I'm out.
no exterior renovations proposed.
No, nothing exterior. No, I'm sorry, that's what I was referring to. I don't know there's nothing happening on the outside whatsoever.
But the restroom is pre-existing,
The restroom is
Okay.
there. I'm not
And-
sure, is the closet next to it there as well?
and the storage,
Yeah.
all of
So
that is there?
I think the rest is just paint and finishes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you, okay.
I would just note that, we did submit plans from Sionis Architecture, which includes a floor plan, which is pretty basic. It shows the classroom space and then existing closet and existing bathroom to the rear of the.
It looked, based on what was proposed, it looked pretty straightforward. I just want to make sure on the record that.
Yeah, the plans actually show there is a demising wall that's actually being removed. And they're on the plans on the architects, that there's a couple of different demising walls that are coming down because it is not currently one large open space. So they will, there's dashed lines on the Sionis architecture plan showing what's being removed. Any of the little cubbies or creations of small office space or a conference room are being deleted. So it'll be one large open space with a closet at the rear and the existing washroom. They're so lightly dashed that they're hard to see.
Right. So really, basically, the furniture will be sort of what defines the space, and the intent is to maintain a lot of flexibility for that purpose. All right, thank you. Are there members of the public that have any questions for Mr. Keller? Questions? No questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Tremblay, do you have any?
I'll be very brief, especially.
Well, let's just open up for the public if there's any
That's
comments.
right. Thank you, right. So are there members of the public that have any comments about this application? All right. Hearing none. Mr. Tremblay, any final comments?
Yes, and we would like to proceed to the vote, notwithstanding there are only 6 members. Just briefly following on the heels of Mr. Keller, I'm certainly not going to repeat all the reasons why we meet the criteria for the variance. I mean, we have an educational facility, which really I think makes it inherently beneficial, but educational facility certainly have a location that's, particularly suitable for the use that's proposed. And we're dealing with a Montclair institution, really, educational, uniquely Montclair, I think, educational institution in the Montclair Cooperative School. Been around a long time, over 60 years, with a unique progressive curriculum with an emphasis on community involvement and social responsibility. And what better example of that than the fact that these primary school children wrote letters and petitioned the council to create a safer environment for the school. What a great learning experience, I think, and that just epitomizes what this school is about. They're out there in the community, and which is important here, because as it's been testified to, they're crossing the street all the time, and not just the older students, but the younger students. But there's safety protocols in place that allow that to happen and allow these kids to be involved in the community and experience Montclair as young involved citizens. And as Rich Keller already said, and I'll just repeat it, aside from their parents, there's nobody more concerned about the safety of these children than the faculty and staff to whom the parents entrust their children every day. And if there was any possibility of this creating any safety concerns for the students, the school would not be proposing this, but they do this all the time, crossing the street on a limited basis for the older students only, a limited period of time during the day. I think we've proven that it can be done and will be done safely and without risking any concern for the safety of the children. So for all those reasons, I would ask that the board approve the application for the use variance that we've requested.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we'll turn to Ms. Harris for comments.
I think I'm in favor of this application, just given the history of the school and the way that it currently operates, and that the space is only going to be limited to the upper school and the older students. I think it is a good use of space. It's probably not very attractive for retail or office use, and and it keeps the students closer to the building. So I would generally be in favor of this application.
All right, thank you. Mr. Vieira?
I'm also in favor of the application. Initially, I was concerned about the pedestrian traffic, but I think I'm satisfied with the testimony. I think the fact that the space is separate and it's a dedicated entrance that will not be shared with the other with the building's occupants, I think that's a positive thing. And I will also add that I'm in favor of the condition that was mentioned to limit the use for the 5th to 8th grade. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'm assuming, Mr. Sullivan, that Mr. Cruz is eligible to vote this evening?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cruz?
Yes, I would say that I too am in favor of the application. I think the Montclair Cooperative School does a wonderful job in terms of their values and their principles. They've been in the town for a very, very long time, and it'll be great to have a bigger steam room.
Mr. Caulfield?
If the old Ruthie's or whatever's there, you might actually, take that over as a cooking school down the line. Not sure where expansion will go. I'm in favor, thanks.
Mr. Church?
Yeah, I'm in favor. I'd be in favor of the application.
I'm also in favor of the application. It should be noted, once again, the condition of the limiting the facility for use by the upper school. There was a question that was raised by one of our commissioners about egress. I would assume that's a question that simply could be referred to the planning department that would not require any action.
Yeah, that's a
on the
building
part.
code
A building
issue,
code,
so-
right? So, I don't believe there are any other conditions.
Let me just make some suggestions. I think certainly there would be a condition as stipulated by the applicant that the use of this property would be limited to the upper school students. I think we may want to consider a condition that the student crossing of Forest Street shall be within the crosswalk and supervised by a staff member. I think we want to restrict those 3 spaces to faculty and staff members also. We don't want parents trying to drop people off there. And then the standard conditions that the applicant's bound by all representations made on their behalf at the public hearing, and that they're required to post any inspection fees or escrow fees as required.
All right. Any questions about any of those? All right, we're ready to vote?
Oh, we need a motion.
We need a motion, yes. Someone make a motion, please?
Approve the motion with the conditions as stated.
Second.
All right. Mr. Vieira?
Yes.
Mr. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Caulfield?
Yes.
Mr. Church?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
And yes, I'm also voting yes. So with that,
Thank you
your
very much.
application has been approved. Thank you. All the best. So you coming back?
Did somebody go to get Mr. Harrison?
No, they're temperamental, these guys. Which one was this? Oh, okay. Did you see that? I feel bad. I drove around. And they're in construction. They're in construction.
You all ready?
Yes.
The next application is that of Mustafa and Susan Abadan, owners of property at 28 Mountainside Park Terrace. This is an application for a single-family dwelling. Property is located in the R11 family zone, is designated on the township tax maps as Lot 3 and Block 901. Variances are requested from Montclair Code Section 347-45D for a lesser rear yard setback than permitted, and from Montclair Code Section 305-6B to permit it 250 to permit a swimming pool located closer to the front property line than the front wall of the dwelling, or taxes paid, and it's a notice in order.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to swear in the applicant. Should you both raise your right hands? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes.
State your names and addresses, please.
Go ahead.
Mustafa Abadan at 474 Park Street in Montclair.
Rachel Grahowski, RHG Architecture and Design. Our business address is 491 Bloomfield Avenue, and my home address is 13 Briar Hill Road, Montclair.
And you're a registered architect in the state of New Jersey, is that correct?
Correct.
Your license is in good standing?
Yes.
Okay, proceed to tell us what you're doing and why.
First of all, I would like to thank the board for inviting us this evening in late of August. As I said, my name is Mustafa Abadan, and my wife, Susan Brady Abadan, is with me tonight. We've been in Montclair for 27 years. We've been residents here first on 152 South Mountain, and then in the last 17 years at our current address on Park Street. I'm an architect myself, and just retired from a very large corporate firm, Skidmore and Merrill, architects of the World Trade Center, et cetera. So as we are transitioning our life, we wanted to build a residence that would sort of take us to the rest of our lives, and therefore purchase the property, and are hoping to, continue to build this project. Susan is also a designer of her own right. She's a lighting designer, owner of SBLD Studio Lighting Design, which she just moved from New York to Montclair about 3 years ago. So not only is she a resident here, but she's also an employer. We've been active in the community here through many different venues. While I've been quite busy traveling around the world, Susan has been mostly focused in Montclair. She's been on the board of Montclair Art Museum for the last 10 years. She's the chair of their facilities group. Just very soon, the Montclair Art Museum will be showing off its new galleries, and that's a lot of Susan's leadership. Susan has also been involved in the Montclair Fund for Education Excellence. She has done many fundraisers for a variety of things like cancer for women, cancer research for women, and also she's been involved with volunteering for Van Vleck, as well as the Yogi Berra Museum, and doing pro bono lighting work for them. So we are hoping that we can take you through our application and come out of it with a, hopefully a positive result. Thank you. Oh, and I now would like to give the floor to Rachel, who's our architect, and we'll continue the presentation.
Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead over to the images here. Okay. Hello? Perfect. Okay. So as you know, we're here to seek two variances for a previously permitted single-family residence, which is currently under construction. The lot is located at 28 Mountainside Park Terrace. It's an elevated hillside lot near the boundaries. I'm going to just zoom in here, just give you a little, the boundaries of Mills Reservation, which is here on, this is the Mills Reservation right here, and is Mountainside Park Terrace is a very short dead-end road, and you can see that 28 is the second to last property at this dead-end road. Please note also, I'm going to go zoom back here for a second. Try to get this just right. Please note the irregular shape of the lot. As you may know, this site, 28 Mountainside Park Terrace, is a very tricky lot. It's very steep, and it posed various challenges which we have successfully addressed. The two variances that we seek, number one, as previously stated, is Montclair Code 34745D, a lesser rear yard setback, in order to accommodate a covered breezeway to connect the rear garage and driveway to the entry. So just as a side note, again, this is the road up to the site. Here is the driveway up the slope, and you're coming into, you know, you've got to obviously get a good turn here into the garage, which is in this location. The breezeway is located here. I will go on to the next page and get a little bit of better view, but you can see this is the area we're talking about on the first variance. Okay, where's my next, there we go. Let me see, hopefully you can, I'm going to again zoom in a little bit for you. Again, you can see this is the garage area. The breezeway is right here. This dashed line is the setback line. Per the code, the required rear yard setback is 25% the depth of the lot. In this case, that's 57 feet and 7 inches. We seek the variance to allow for a 41-foot, 10-foot setback for the covered breezeway. And the breezeway is defined as an open area with a roof to allow this will allow partial coverage from inclement weather, again, when people are walking across this pathway and into the front door of the house. Okay, why is it not going to the next page? Next page. Nope. There we go. Okay. Again, I'll zoom in here a bit. I know you've got your printed copies, but you can see in this rendering, this is where the breezeway is. It kind of disappears into the rest of the house. And you can see on this drawing that it's open, this breezeway is open. Okay. Then the second variance that we are requesting is, the second variance we are requesting is Montclair Code 305-6B to permit the proposed 270 square foot dipping pool to be located closer to the front property line than the front wall of the building. So you should have the SK1, which was submitted after the application, which updated the dimensions of the pool, changing the frontage, so this dimension, from 21 foot 6 inches to 15 feet. So at this point, we've got 15 feet of the pool that needs to be considered for the variance. The pool is 103 feet from the front property line, which is nearly 3 times the average front yard setback of the adjacent buildings. They're averaging 36.2 feet. It is also a significant elevation. Again, it's a significant elevation from the street up to the house, between 67 and 73 feet. It will be unidentifiable as a pool except from a bird's eye view. Ample landscaping, you can see right here. This is actually the pool right here. You can see ample landscaping, which will be installed to screen the foundation from the street. Additionally, with respect to the engineering's review letter provided by Niglia Engineering, our team has reached out to Mr. Hernandez and walked through the letter with him. And we have no objection to addressing his comments and concerns as a condition of the approval, should the board look favorably upon this application. Additionally, the Abadan family has received letters of support from 7 neighbors, one of which went directly to the town. We have the remaining 6.
Unfortunately, the board can't accept letters in favor of or opposed to. If any of those neighbors are here, they would have an opportunity to speak.
Okay. So I think that's pretty much all we have to present at this point, and we're open for questions. We respectfully request the approval for the application.
Mr. McCullough, do you have any questions?
I think just a couple of questions. Get a little bit organized here. So as far as the, first of all, that's quite a steep climb for one's later years. So congratulations that you're in such great health. Or you have a great vehicle. I went over and took a look at the site and walked up there, and I was really puffing a lot to get up there, but a spectacular location. Mr. Abadan, I was wondering though, in terms of the location, now the way that you've sort of designed the garage, and then the request for the breezeway. There's no way to enter into the house from the garage itself. So the only way to get in is to go through the breezeway. Is that?
No, there's an entrance from the garage for us, but for people who are visiting, et cetera, they would be parking right in front of the garage. And
I see.
The breezeway is really for them. I mean, normally I would also like to use my front door, but, and not necessarily always rely on the garage, but it's primarily for others that are also going to be visiting us.
Okay, right. And then as far as the breezeway creates access to the dipping pool, is that right?
No.
Let me try to
The
see.
breezeway is simply a connection from the parking area associated with the garage to the main entrance of the house.
Okay.
So just
Yes.
to identify, so the breezeway is here. So again, you drive up the driveway, you're parking in this area,
Mhm.
and entering through the breezeway here. The dipping pool is here.
Okay.
And it's the revision where, again, the pool is narrower than this, is on the SK drawing.
So is there a way to get from the breezeway to the dipping pool straight, or do you have to go through the
breezeway
house?
is really to get into the house.
Okay, just
Yeah,
want
it's
to
not-
make sure that
It's
this.
not to assist to get to the pool.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you, I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Church, do you have any questions?
No, not at this time.
Ms. Harris, do you have any questions?
Is the breezeway limited to the entry area, or is there any covering over the walkway between the breezeway and the garage?
The breezeway extends just here, so there's not a covered walkway here. It starts at this point. So you do have to.
So that portion's uncovered.
You would have to have a covered portico for it to be fully protected, but at least this allows somebody to sort of dry off raining this area, and parking here, with that short little walk here.
And then can you, like, at any point along the rear setback and the breezeway, what's the average distance to your rear property line?
The average distance to the property line is, well, the setback to the property line from the, are you saying from the,
So I see where the dotted line is for the rear setback. How far is that from the rear property line?
57'7"?
57, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Vieira, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You had rendering from, I guess, from the street, looking at the swimming pool, A8 is the page. Yes, we got the bottom one. So the swimming pool is the black structure? Yeah. Is that the proposed color, or is this just for rendering purposes?
I think it's, for the time being, more for the rendering purposes. We are still in the full, conception of the material.
Yeah. And is the
It
concept?
will be, the intention behind it is that it's a receding color rather than a color that's, putting itself out.
Okay.
So a darker color generally is the one that recedes.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. It was, the concept was to
So-
stand out or not? Yeah.
Not to stand out.
Okay. And just to clarify, this is in construction right now, but you're seeking those two, so it's, construction's happening now?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay.
The building itself is as of right. These are the only two exceptions that we
Yeah.
have. So that's why we're here.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ms. Harris?
The view in this rendering, it's from the retaining wall. It's not necessarily from the street.
It's from the street.
So this is if you're standing on the street.
Okay.
Kind of eye level, roughly, looking up, so.
Got it.
It's,
Would it be possible to add more landscaping kind of directly in front of the pool or closer to the pool?
the pool is actually cantilevered, right, so I think.
The intention here was actually to show you the pool we could have easily put a lot of landscaping in front of it. The
Is that
intention
the
is.
intent?
No,
is
the
to-
intention is that obviously that there's going to be much more landscaping than that. But if we did that on this
You wouldn't see
rendering,
the
you wouldn't
pool.
see what the pool was. So the intention here was to actually offer you the opportunity to see what we're proposing.
And you can see here that, like, you know, dotted in more landscaping here, again, trying to show a little bit of it.
You need to talk into the microphone. We can't hear you.
So you can see in this elevation, you know, we're showing much more landscaping here. It's just, again, as Mustafa said, just to express what you would actually be seeing, or that the pool's actually there.
Okay, and there's a tree kind of dotted on the left side of that image. Is that behind the building or in front of the building?
This is behind the building. I mean,
Okay.
the landscaping is in development still as well.
Okay. I mean, I think we should maybe impose a condition that there's landscaping at least equal to the same height of the pool, if we allow this.
I have a question about that, just in terms of, my understanding is that the intent of the pool is to be an infinity pool?
Yeah.
So you would not be looking for landscaping that would
Go above it.
go above or impact
Because
the
of
view
site
from the
is
pool
so
itself?
steep, once you have landscaping in front of it, your vision already begins to block it.
Mr. Cruz, do you have any questions?
Yes, I just, I saw on one of the exhibits that there was also a proposed deck increase of 1 foot. Was the front yard variance you were looking for, was that already received, or?
That is not part of the variance. We have ample, you can see it on the drawing that the setback, the required setback for the front yard is 36 feet 2 inches, and we're well behind that. On sheet A1, the red dashed line shows where that setback is.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, and maybe this is already discussed, but is there a requirement for a fence for this pool? So how do you, with an infinity
There-
pool like this, how do you fence it?
It's a larger landscape.
Yeah, I can show you where the
The entire
proposed fence is.
backyard to the
But-
slope and below the pool is
So you
fenced
have
in.
the fence in the front yard
Yeah,
somewhere?
It comes, yeah, it's within the landscaped area.
Okay,
So that you can't actually ever get to the pool.
okay, okay.
but uncon-
Actually, I don't really need to, I just want to make sure that it's there somewhere, that
It's
it's not
shown
gonna-
on the plans.
yeah.
Shown on the plans.
Mr. Cruz, did you have any further questions? Okay. Mr. Caulfield?
Thank you. Is the engineer talking tonight, or is it just the, is that your?
If you have any questions, he's
He's
available.
not presenting tonight?
No.
Okay. Can you tell me about like, how the pool changed from the original drawings? Like, what was the thought behind that?
We actually reoriented it.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than being more parallel to the street, it's now more perpendicular.
Mhm.
So the shorter side of the pool is on the frontage, and more of the pool is a little bit going into the property, into the building. It's also helping us to minimize the excavation that's necessary.
Okay. Do you, obviously, you're taking out a lot of trees through this. What's your, how many trees are you going to plant after this for your?
At the approval process, there's 32 trees to be planted on the site. I
Okay.
think in the end, when we're done, based on our aesthetic, there'll be a lot more trees than that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, I guess my issue is we're kind of doing this backwards of you've placed the house and we're then, based on that, needing the front yard and, location of the pool in the front yard and the rear yard variance, but first I want to understand the placement of the garage and the entrance to the garage, because part of that is creating a lot of additional clearing and grading to accommodate the driveway swinging around to the back of the house, and what was the thinking there?
The current plan pretty much follows what used to be existing on the site.
But what
There
was
was there was a building on the site which was demolished. That building had an access that is pretty much the same configuration as that.
But
So-
that building was set, the rear of that building was much further away from the rear property line.
That's correct. Our garage is within the legal setback.
I understand, but it's the garage location which is dictating the breezeway.
Well, the setback of the house, based on the topography, required the building to be where it's located now in order to reduce the amount of effect on the site, basically. And so the building is further back than the previous building, and the requirement of the garage entry at the back is based on the slope. I don't think that, also, usually in Montclair, the preference of having garage on the back of the house is a beneficial thing, so I'm not sure that that's, I guess I'm trying to understand what the concern is.
The concern is whether this could have been designed so the breezeway would be conforming is ultimately the question, but, the garage, I mean, most houses in Montclair, the garage faces the street and is, the reality. But I think my question on that, and which leads to the necessity of the breezeway location, is in order to do that, you're basically going up close to the rear property line, swinging around and having the cars swing around, and whether any other configurations were looked at is the question.
So the setback, the required setback is 57.7, right? And so we're at 41.10 for the breezeway. So,
Which has a width of about 10 feet, and it's an open structure. So we're not asking for a variance to build a building with 4 walls. We're simply asking for a covered walkway.
And then going to the pool, it's the same basic question as to the design choices that lead to it needing to be in front of the front wall of the house. And what is the elevation of the pool compared to the elevation of the covered patio that's behind it?
Same. They're pretty much within the same plateau.
Okay, and I guess then, why couldn't the swimming pool be moved back 6 feet so it lines up with the house?
Excavation issues. This whole site is full of rock. But beyond that, I mean, the challenges of the site really are driving much of what we're asking you to consider.
But don't you have those same excavation issues with building the house?
Within the as of right conditions, yes.
I mean, obviously, the house is much larger than the infinity pool, and you're doing, based on the pre-existing grade, substantial excavation to accommodate the house, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm not sure what, the fact that you would have to do a little additional excavation to accommodate the pool if it's moved back, I'm not understanding why that justifies our granting the variance.
I think if you look at the property shape, again, I'm just gonna try to gauge. If you follow the code, which is basically the setback from the street, right? Like, the house is not parallel with the property line, right? And so the pool is really, again, this is the old orientation of the pool. It's really, if you take the zoning ordinance, again, which says from the setback from the property line or the street, which is here, right? It's not actually, and then you take the setback from the street to the pool, as you indicated, we're talking about like 6 feet, 4 to 6 feet, like depending on how it lays out once you actually get the surveyor out there. It looks like it's a lot more because of the angle, and of course when you go to the revised, I don't know why I'm headed there. This is only showing you like the pool. You can see again, it's only the 15 feet in this direction. And unfortunately I should be going back and forth because now you can't see where it aligns with the side of the building. But again, because the house is not parallel to the front line, it's actually from the setback, it's actually only like 4 feet over in front of that front northeast corner of the house. So it's actually not that much. And again, you're not really going to see it from the street because of the steep slope. So I'm not sure if there's a way, I think also one thing to note just about the floor plan of the house is that there is a door that comes out here. So if you were to push this pool back, you would be blocking this door right here. Right now, it's pushed back kind of almost as far as it can go before it starts to impede the flow of traffic from humanity from the inside of the house.
Did you consider putting the pool on the side, kind of replacing that deck that's shown adjacent next to it on the left? Did you consider putting the pool in that area?
Most of that deck is cantilevered out.
As
So it's
the
not
pool,
touching
right?
the ground. But the issue here, again, is about the amount of steep slope
Mhm.
and the amount of water runoff, which we are addressing through the engineering reports. So the more you put stuff outside, the more water runoff you have to deal with.
But isn't
So
that
we're
what
trying
you're
to-
proposing on the front of the house? I'm just saying changing it to
No,
the
most
side.
of the pool is actually within the building line. What we're showing there is that it's, basically extending about 6 feet outside of the house wall.
Right, and I'm asking if you just basically turn it 90 degrees so that it's not,
But if it- but it would be the same 6 feet.
But you could push it back.
Yeah, you would have room to push it back in that case. So, also, obviously, this is a deck, right? So there's a door that comes out onto the deck here, a door that comes out of onto the deck here, and then there's a door here that goes onto the patio. The deck and the patio are at the same elevation. When you start to push this pool back, you start to, again, block the movement on the site. So with the pool in the SK drawing, which is oriented this way, it already makes kind of a tight turn here from the deck onto the patio. But that was an accommodation that was made to try to reduce the amount of frontage of the pool and, you know, make it a little bit easier to accept. And I guess I should be using the red light. So again, here and here, right? So the attempt of reorienting the pool was to, again, reduce the amount of frontage, which is in obviously what the part of what the variance is for, and by pushing it back, you start to cinch this down. If you push it over here, now you're starting to affect lot coverage, et cetera. There's a lot of calculations, again, that went into water retention, et cetera, on the engineering side. Right, but I'm just saying, if you push the pool all the way over here and you're expanding it. This pool, by the way, again, it is partially cantilevered, right? So, as is this deck.
Okay, but when you reconfigured the pool, besides making it 60 square feet larger, you also pushed it back significantly from where it was originally proposed, which kind of goes against your argument that you're moving it back creates more excavation. Your decision to change the configuration and change the size of the pool in and of itself increased the amount of excavation that needs to be done. Or if it doesn't, then there's no reason not to push the pool back another 6 feet. Or as Harris said, flip it parallel to the street like you had it originally.
You're saying leaving it as originally proposed.
Well, a combination of leaving it, and since you're already excavating in where you push the pool back adjacent to the house, swinging it around is yes, by the length it's making a little more excavation, but is not significantly changing the additional excavation you already proposed when you made it perpendicular to the street.
You would have to do, so obviously with the width of the pool as it is, if it pushes back, at most you would be able to push it back maybe like 3 feet, 2.5 feet, because again, just to walk through this area or you would end up obviously in the pool. The pool in this orientation is lined up with the deck, right? So that's why it's located here in this original plan, is that it's lined up with the front of the deck. You still have passageway through here. If you push this back, you're...
But now the pool goes back basically that whole distance.
It's a different orientation.
It's actually a smaller pool.
So in this orientation, yes, we were able to push it back because you have just enough room to walk through here, right? Like you're coming off the deck onto the patio, you can get back here. That's how we're able to do it. So you would have to do both, right? Like make it narrower and push it back.
Well, we're
I-
saying turn it, right? Turn it so that instead of
But-
the waterfall facing the front, it's facing the side.
Look, the infinity thing is not a requirement or a big issue. We're trying to sort of, again, configure a pool within the site that's going to sort of like make some amount of sense without increasing the coverage, et cetera. If you turn it, which again is a possibility, it would still require us not be able to push it all the way back because then you have no passage from the deck area.
You have to use the microphone.
Oh, sorry. What I was saying is that, you know, if one were to reconfigure this pool and turn it sideways, again, you wouldn't be able to push it much further back than this in order to be able to leave amount of the passage, which still would require some amount of overlap. That's all I was saying. So, I mean,
Right, but you would also have to reconfigure the deck, right? You wouldn't leave the deck where it is, you would turn it and reconfigure the deck.
the deck is not part of the
No, but I'm saying
application.
to fit the pool. I'm not
The
sure
deck
if that's-
this deck is not part of the pool.
I understand, but I'm saying to eliminate the variance for the pool, if you turn it 90 degrees, and
Yes.
reconfigure the deck, it would fit it and eliminate this variance.
May I ask you to point it?
So I'm saying,
Angela, you're going to need a microphone.
I'm saying, turn this deck so that it is this way. I mean, turn the pool so it's this way. You don't need this variance, and you'll just have to reconfigure this deck. That's open. Well, the deck you don't need a variance for, right? So if you orient it long ways in front of the house, you would have a deck.
Then you lose the deck and you have no place to put chairs next to the pool. There's a roof that goes over the patio.
So you don't have a place to put chairs under the roof?
That the deck is for the pool chairs.
Under the roof?
No, on the side.
Yeah, no, you're saying there's a roof over this deck?
No, over the patio behind the pool.
Understood, understood. And I'm not talking about readjusting this patio, I'm just talking about turning the pool and running the deck this way. You still have a deck.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to put the deck in front of the pool though, because then you definitely alleviate the ability to, or create the ability to not have an infinity pool.
If
If
the
you put
water
the deck
can't
in
run
front
this
of the-
way?
No, the infinity pool is looking out over towards the city, right? So the infinity pool is looking east. Yeah, the infinity pool right now, it's facing east, right? Like, when this view is towards Manhattan, so if you're putting a deck in front of it, you're not gonna have that. And, you know, that's, sure, that's, you know, an option. It takes away kind of that part of the intent.
Changing topics. You indicated you would comply with everything in the Neglia review memo. I guess my concern have you analyzed at all the potential impacts on the site design of doing that compliance? Have you had an engineer look at the consequences of complying?
Yes.
Maybe.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and address.
Sean Delaney from Petrie Engineering, 155 Passaic Avenue, Suite 350, Fairfield, New Jersey.
Mr. Delaney, you're a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
And your license is in good standing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, proceed.
So yes, we had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Hernandez of Neglia Engineering to go over his memo. The majority of the comments contained in his memo are comments and items that we had already addressed as a part of the initial grading plot plan application when these permits were originally issued for the building. There are some slight modifications. We mentioned some increase in impervious coverage and some minor building coverage tweaks to the plans as a result of the pool and this breezeway in the back. That may result in slight tweaks to the drainage systems previously designed, but we did look at it, and overall those tweaks would be minor. The basin may have to increase, a couple of feet in length, but nothing substantial and nothing that could not be accommodated on this lot.
So just so I understand, you're indicating that this August 13 report, that a number of the items have already been complied with in prior submissions?
Correct. Yeah, one of the biggest things is that when we submitted this application, we didn't submit a revised stormwater management report.
So he didn't see all the documentation?
Exactly, because this plan is actually calling for a slight reduction in impervious coverage, so we didn't update the stormwater report because there really is no impact to it. Based on this slight tweak to the pool, there may be a slight tweak, but we've agreed with Norberto, Mr. Hernandez, to revise the stormwater reports and reissue it to him. But again, we wouldn't expect any kind of increase in runoff.
Any other questions from members of the board for any of the witnesses? Are there any members of the public who either have questions for any of the witnesses or any testimony, statements, comments, anything you want to say about the application?
I would just like to point out.
You have to come up and give your name and address and be sworn in.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
Name and address, please.
Susan Brady, Abadan, 474 Park Street. I'm the other owner of the property, of the building. I just want to point out that it's on a dead-end street. There's only one house beyond it. And so nobody drives past the house other than the neighbor who's in favor of the project and has supported the project with the letter that you didn't want to see.
Well, it's
So
not
we
that I
aren't
didn't-
legally able to see
Yeah, I
it.
mean, it's not that I didn't want
Okay.
to see it. There's a case where the court said that it's improper for the, well, just let me finish, okay? That it's improper for the board to consider that, because that person is not subject to cross-examination.
Any other members of the public with either questions or testimony? Okay, anything further either of you want to say before we discuss and vote on the application?
No? No.
Start discussion with Mr. McCullough.
Yes, I think I'm generally in favor of the application. I'm certainly interested to hear what my colleagues have to say in terms of potentially turning the pool, but I understand the concept of the infinity pool in terms of a view of the cityscape. I think I understand the hesitance on the part of the owner to move the pool further back to align with the deck, given the fact that it potentially creates some blockage of a doorway from the living room into the covered patio and pool area. I don't know if there's another alternative in terms of that doorway, because that hasn't really sort of been discussed. Maybe there is another option in terms of that. But outside of that, I think I'm generally in support of the application. I think I understand the nature of the breezeway from the parking area behind the garage for the purposes of entertaining other guests. So I think I'm generally in favor of the application.
Mr. Church?
I am generally in favor of the application also, only because of the difficulty of the property it's being put on. I can see that it's a small area that doesn't get a lot of traffic. I had a very difficult time finding it, to look at it. However, I would be in favor of the application only because you've already started construction. The moving of the pool would defeat the purpose of an infinity pool, I feel. So, I'd be in favor of the application as presented.
Ms. Harris?
I am in favor of the variance for the breezeway. I think there's still some study that can be done on the pool to remove this variance from the application, but I am in favor of the breezeway variance.
Mr. Vieira?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in favor of both variances. I think if the reconfiguration of the pool, may add additional calculations on the lot coverage or stormwater. So I think I like the fact that you reconfigure the frontage of the pool to be smaller, 15 feet as opposed to, I think, 18 feet. So in general, I'm in favor.
Mr. Cruz?
I would concur with Ms. Harris. I am in favor of the breezeway variance, but I do believe too that with some redesign, you could figure out how to get rid of the pool variance.
Mr. Caulfield?
Yeah, I will agree with Ms. Harris. Just, you know, when I looked at the original survey of the property to what we have today, and then I looked at, like, you know, this is twice the size of what that is, of what was once there. I don't know, I'm you know, the breezeway is a different story because it's in the back and there's the park back there. It doesn't necessarily matter, but the pool, I just have some thoughts on it. Thanks.
Okay, you know, I'm in favor of the breezeway variance. I think the difficulties in accessing the site for the driveway, I don't know if there were or were not other options, but I think the reality and the way the rear yard setback goes on the property, I think they've justified the granting of that based on the topography of the lot. I'm not in favor of the variance for the pool. I think, you know, there has been and will need to be additional substantial grading on the parcel. You know, the additional grading, which I'm not totally convinced would occur, but, you know, when they resituated the pool to go east-west, which I understand in terms of the desirability of facing Manhattan with the infinity pool, I understand, but that also created additional grading. I think this is, you know, maybe one thing if everything already existed on the property and they were trying to find a location, but you know, that it's, you know, this strikes me as being a hardship they're creating by, this is where we placed everything, so we're stuck with the pool here. And when they submitted a earlier, smaller design that didn't face east-west, I think there are solutions that do not require a variance, and hence I am not in favor of that variance. We should, any approval should be conditioned on meeting all the engineers and conditions in the Neglia report dated August 13th, 2024, that they adhere to the tree removal ordinance and that there be sufficient landscaping so the pool would not be visible from the street. Any further discussion? If not, does someone want to make a motion?
So, are we able to take a vote on the breezeway and reconsider the pool come back and have the pool reconsidered?
Well, we can certainly do the vote separately.
Right.
It's up, the case is concluded, so it's up to the board if whether or not they want to allow you an opportunity to relook at that.
Okay, why don't we take a vote on the breezeway? That's.
Okay.
Okay. Someone want to move the breezeway, approval of the breezeway variance with the conditions stated?
Yes, move to approve the breezeway variance with the conditions stated.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay. The choices are, we can vote on the application, or we can give them the opportunity to come back. I think the risk to them, if we vote, is would any subsequent application be sufficiently different that we would say it's different enough that res judicata doesn't apply, and I'll let Mr. Sullivan opine on that.
Well, I mean, you're seeking, it's 6 foot in play on this pool right now. If the board denied that application and you took a foot off, the board may say that's decision's already been made, that's not substantially dissimilar, and we're not going to reconsider that. I mean, you could say we're going to comply with the ordinance and go home right now. But, so, the alternative also is the board to give you an opportunity before we take action to see if there's a way to reconfigure the pool that still may require a variance, but not as great a variance as you're seeking now. But that's where you are.
And if we take option 3, that means we can't complete or can't submit the resolution for the first variance because the application isn't concluded, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we would do a single resolution there, but it would require, we would have to reconsider it. That part would still be subject to a subsequent hearing, when you got in whatever plan you're gonna get in.
So you're saying, obviously, one option is to take a vote.
One option is to take a vote. If it gets denied, you risk, you have to come back with a substantially dissimilar application in order to get around res judicata.
Correct.
You could get approved, but based on the preliminary comments, that doesn't look good.
Right.
Or you could carry it, ask to be carried to reconsider consideration of the pool. Or you could withdraw the request for a variance and simply go back and make it conforming.
I just have a conversation.
No, it's not a key variance. No. 4 votes that were against the pool. Yeah. So, 3 in favor.
We will go back, redesign, and make it conforming so that variance won't be required.
Okay, so the application is amended to withdraw the request for a variance relating to the pool.
Correct.
Thank you. We're done.
Thank you.
The next application is that of Art of Rain LLC. This is an application for a use variance to occupy an existing commercial space on the second floor of an existing building located at 50 Church Street with a body art tattoo studio. Property is located on the tax maps as Block 2206, Lot 1 and Lot 20, and is in the C3 zoning district and with an address of 50 Church Street. Mr. Skolnick, give your appearance and run.
Nice to see you, Chairman. Richard Skolnick, I have my own law office on behalf of the applicant, Art of Rain LLC.
Good evening.
May I proceed?
You may.
I have a short opening statement. My client, Rain Delmar, is the principal of the LLC. We're here for a D1 use variance at 50 Church Street. The Parcels identified as Block 2206, lots 1 and 20. And this is really an occupancy of only 300 square feet on the second floor of an existing structure at 50 Church Street. Ms. Delmar and her entity would be tenants in the space. I have two witnesses. Ms. Delmar is going to tell you about her background and her business and the operations, and we have a planner, Chris Colley. There's no exterior changes that are proposed, just the occupancy of a very small space on the second floor of this commercial building. There's no exterior signage that's proposed. There's no site plan that's proposed before you. I'm going to make the argument that this is about as low an intensity of use as possible in that 300 square feet for a tattoo body art studio. Ms. Delmar works by appointment only. She's going to be the only artist, and that can be a condition of approval. And importantly, she only sees one client at a time. And the clients can bring a guest, but they rarely do. She has a maximum of 2 appointments on any given day, morning and afternoon or both, so it's 2 clients coming. That's the maximum per day. And she only works 3 or 4 days per week. So very low intensity of use. There's no noise, there's no odors, there's no fumes, there's no loud music. I'm going to make an argument that there's really no impact to the public, like a zero detriment type case. There's no congregating of people. There's none of the traditional externalities, if you will, that people may have thought about in the 1970s version of a tattoo parlor. There's no drugs, there's no rock and roll, no congregating of people here. We understand, because it's a commercial use variance, we have the enhanced burden of proof on the negative criteria. We understand we have to show special reasons. We understand we have to reconcile the proposed use with the fact that it's not permitted in the C3 zone, but we think with Ms. Delmar's testimony and that of the planner, we can meet those proofs. Further, we think and we hope that you'll come to see her business as a valuable asset to the fabric of the Montclair community.
Okay, Ms. Delmar, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the same thing you were.
Oh, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes.
State your name and address, please.
My name is Rain Delmar, address 142 Bird Avenue in Bloomfield, New Jersey.
Okay, and I'm just going to mark an exhibit that has a picture of a device and some examples of her artwork, so you can get a little idea. And we'll mark this as A1, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sheets. Okay, Ms. Delmar, can you tell us a little bit about your background professionally and how you ended up looking at some space in Montclair?
I've been studying art my entire life. In where I was born in Ukraine, I started taking art classes and was professionally trained, classically trained as a oil painter from the age of 5. When I immigrated to U.S. at the age of 12, I continued taking private classes until I got accepted to LaGuardia School of Music and Art. After that, I got accepted to School of Visual Arts, where I got a bachelor's in illustration. I graduated in 2009, after which I started my tattoo apprenticeship, and I have been tattooing for about 15 years now. While I was tattooing, I also continued to take seminars and classes to refine my skills.
Okay, and you decided to go solo and open up your own business at some time in another jurisdiction?
Yes, I was working in Astoria at a shop for 12 years, and I decided to go solo, so I opened a studio in Astoria. Then I bought a house in Bloomfield, and the commute proved to be very long, so I moved my studio to Montclair.
Okay, and you'd like to open up on Church Street?
Yes, I really love the area, and I love the block, and I think I could be a good fit for it.
Okay, and I made some comments in my opening statement about how you run your operation. You would be the only employee, is that correct?
Yes, I don't plan on hiring anyone in the future.
Okay, and I had mentioned that you only see one customer at a time. Is that your procedure?
Yes, so I tend to work on medium to large projects. So my shortest session is about 3 hours, so I can only fit 2 clients in a day. So it would be 10 to 2 or 2 to 6, or if it's a full day big project, I work from 10 to 6. So, yeah.
And you have a pre-screening process. Can you explain that to the board?
Yes, so in order to get an appointment with me, a client would basically send me an email describing their project. If it's something that I do within my stylistic scope, I would set up a video consultation with them that takes 30 minutes. After the video consultation, they are required to put down a $300 deposit and in order to get an appointment.
Okay, and if they get the appointment, they come in and it's only one person at a time, correct?
Yes, one person at a time. You know, they sign a consent form. I take a copy of their ID. So.
And you mentioned that you permit people to bring one guest with them, but it doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, one friend is allowed, but people rarely come with friends. It's just because I tend to work on long hours. It's a lot for somebody to sit there
So
all day.
it's usually just you? And
Just
now-
me and one other client. Yes.
Okay. No, you don't have any other employees or
No.
staff or anything like that?
Just me.
Okay, and there is an instrument in front of you, looks somewhat like a television controller. Can you explain to the board what that is? And we'll represent, it's a picture of that is the first page of Exhibit A1, which I handed out.
Yes. So this is my tattoo machine. It is wireless, and it's a rotary, so it's a lot quieter than the traditional coil machines that we've come to know. So there's minimal noise when I'm working on it.
Okay, can you turn it on? And
Yes. So the machine is on right now.
okay, and is this the level of sound
Yes.
that would be on if you were doing a tattoo? I don't know what the correct verb is
Yes.
for that.
Yes.
What is the correct verb for
Tattooing. Yes.
tattooing?
Well, I'm working on skin, yeah.
Working on the skin. So you've turned the machine on, and the sound that's now emitting is the same sound. So there's, at least in your opinion, no loud noises?
Right, yes. So my machine is very quiet, and I tend to tattoo with headphones on anyway, so I don't make a lot of noise either.
Okay. Can you talk about the hygiene?
Yes, so I am licensed and insured in New York, so I went through all the proper testing. You know, I'm aware of cross-contamination and all of that, and I'm very OCD actually about cleanliness of my studio.
Okay, and there's some state health regulations. You need a license, I think it's from the state of New Jersey, is that correct?
Yes, so the license is dependent on the permit.
Okay, and you've had conversations with the Montclair Health Department, they have to sign off, they're the ones who in fact told you that you have to go get some zoning, right?
Yes, so if I get a permit, then I will be able to apply for a license in New Jersey.
Okay, and your hours of operation again?
10 to 6.
Okay, and how many days a week do you usually work?
A maximum of 4 days, only because tattooing for 8 hours a day really hurts my back, so I have to limit the amount of days or skip a day in between long sessions.
Okay, so it's your intent that you'll be open 3 to 4 days?
Yes.
And either a half day or a full day. A full day's 10 to 6, is that correct?
Yes.
And you mentioned, is there any loud music while you're doing the tattoos?
No, I'm very conscious of being respectful to my neighbors. I I already, I started my private studio in Astoria first, and I've never had a noise complaint.
Okay, and you've been to the space, obviously, correct?
Yes.
And could you describe some of the other tenants in the space along the hallway?
Yes, so I'm on the, second floor. There's a first floor in the basement of various kinds of businesses. On my floor, there is a massage therapist, an acupuncturist, there's a doula, a science school. On the first floor, there's a Pilates studio and a music school, I believe, and a hair salon.
Okay. Do you see any issues with any of those other uses?
No.
No, so just in terms of the acupuncturist, that's a use where somebody is putting needles into somebody else's body without ink?
Right, I hope so.
We believe so, at least. That's
Yes.
your understanding of what an acupuncturist does.
Yes.
You're not aware of any problems from the acupuncturist?
No.
In terms of land use or zoning or anything like that? Okay, in Exhibit A1, there's a couple of photos, 5 or 6 photos. These are examples of the type of sophisticated artwork that you perform?
Yes, these are just a few images of my work. I hope they illustrate that I've been dedicated to art my entire life, and I take it very seriously, and I hope you think that it reflects in my work.
Okay, and you wanted to present this to show that you really have sort of a different angle than some other tattoo artists. You offer a unique service to the community for the folks that are looking for this type of body art.
Yes, I am aware of 3 other tattoo shops in Montclair, and having perused their work, I could tell that nobody does the kind of work that I do. Our just styles are different. So, and I don't work in the styles that they work in. So I think it would offer people a nice variety, and I hope that I could be an asset to Montclair.
Okay, let me just check. I think we've covered everything, Chairman.
Just a quick question. How would the public know that your business exists and be able to sort of access your services?
So I have an existing, after tattooing for 15 years, I have loyal clientele. As for new clients, I advertise on Google and on Instagram as well as Facebook. So it's a lot of social media work, and that's how most of my clients find me, as well as word of mouth.
And would there be any signage outside of the building?
No, it's a private studio. I intend it to be that way. So there's just a sign on my door that's on the second floor, just so my clients can find me, but I don't plan on advertising outside the building.
And the window in your studio facing Church Street would not have anything that would indicate your services?
No, so my window actually faces the roof, and there you could just see maybe curtains from the outside.
Thank you.
No street frontage for you?
No.
Okay. One thing that we may have missed, if I may, Chairman, in addition to getting that deposit and doing that interview, you get a copy of everybody's driver's license?
Yes.
Along with the consent order that you mentioned.
The consent form, yes.
So there's some pre-screening, and I'm trying
Yes.
to bring this out. This is not a 1970s tattoo parlor that's, with these, the perhaps negative consequences that people thought at that time. This is a different sort of operation.
Right, so I only do custom work, so I want to make sure that I meet the needs of my clients and cater directly to them. And if even in the consultation stage, if I feel like maybe stylistically we're not the right fit, this is where all these matters are decided. So before the client steps through the door, I already have their design ready. I already know what they want. We've communicated about it. So it's very custom work.
Okay.
Mr. Church, do you have any questions?
Yeah. Art is very detailed, what you showed us.
Oh, thank
Does
you.
a client come in and have this done in one setting, or does that client come back?
So it depends on the project. Most of the time, they're multi-day projects. So let's say if it's a big sleeve or a back piece, sometimes if it takes not 8 hours or maybe it takes 20 or 30, then the client will come in, do a full day session, and then they take about a month to heal, and then they would come back to continue the project.
So it's not complete. That client is going to be returned.
Yes,
Client.
it depends how on the size and detail. If it's something small, then I could finish it in in a half day or a full day.
So all of your clients don't require this full body type, or what you showed us on these.
I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question?
They don't require all this all the time.
Well, medium to large projects. So
Okay.
basically, I don't work on very small tattoos. That's why I do my pricing in time blocks and not by the hour. So it's either half day or full day, and they're flat fees.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Harris?
I agree with Mr. Church that the detail on your art is
Thank you.
impressive. Besides the device that you have in front of you, do you use any other type of equipment in your studio?
I mean, there's a lot. So, I mean, obviously there's a charging port. So this is battery powered. So after a full day session, I would take off the battery and charge it.
Okay, that's shown on Exhibit A1.
Yes. I mean, other than that, I have a lamp.
Okay, you have ink cartridges, I take it?
Right, yeah.
But no machinery, no nothing?
No machinery, no.
Okay. And then how do you dispose of the spent needles?
So I have a special biohazard container, and it's a single-use container. After it fills up, usually a tattoo artist can do two things. They could call a service to come and pick it up, or they can go to a hospital or urgent care where they are equipped to dispose of the dirty needles.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Vieira?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question around the pre-screening process that you have.
Mhm.
So, does a potential client, can they walk into your studio, or they have to call in and you have to pre-screen?
Yeah, I would only show up at my own studio if I have an appointment, so nobody can walk in, and if I am working on an existing client, then the door is closed and locked. So there's no walk-ins. And you would have to, put down a deposit in order to get tattooed.
So there's no retail component to this?
No.
Right? It's not like, you're open 11 o'clock at night and people have been out doing whatever they're doing and
No.
they decide they want tattoos and they come in to see you. That doesn't work like
Oh,
that.
God,
This
no.
This is not that tattoo shop.
No, I've graduated
That's
from
where
that.
you Kind of get it. It's not a retail. It's
Not retail.
much more like a doctor's office, or maybe an acupuncturist's office, which is a permitted use
Yeah.
on the floor. And that's, you see where I'm going
Yeah.
with the proofs. We're really much closer to the permitted medical or professional than I think what the governing body was thinking about.
Yep.
Tattoos.
The other question I had is, would you be against the board considering a limit on the number of people in the studio?
As long as it's at least one, I'm totally okay
Right.
with it.
No, two, I think you mentioned.
Yes, yeah, I don't, I'm very okay with that, because that's how I work anyway. And, when you're working on a long project, it's difficult to do that if you have to monitor other people at the shop, so I just want to concentrate and do the work.
Thank you.
Mr. Cruz?
I believe you said that your typical, operating hours was between 10 and 6, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then the other question that I had was, you mentioned that you'd been doing this for quite some time. What's the one of the longest client relationships that you had?
Do you mean how long I've known a client, or how long I've tattooed
Or
them? What's the longest I've tattooed?
How long, for example, you mentioned you had your location in Astoria. How long have you had someone coming to you for tattoos?
I have clients that I've had for, I would say, 10, 11 years. Obviously, when I first started, I was still learning. I didn't always put out the work that I put out today. But for instance, I have a client who started coming to me about 10 years ago. We did her entire back, 2 sleeves, a leg sleeve, and a thigh tattoo. And she's coming back for a chest.
Sometime you run out of room.
Right, right.
And then, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Mr. Harrison here, I think, I don't know, he might be running out of room.
Mr. Caulfield.
We've known each other for a long time professionally. I knew he could take that joke. I knew he could take that joke. Don't show us your back, Mr. Harrison. We don't want to see it here. Thank you for the board for indulging me. We've known each other professionally, and I've been at this board on and off for probably 20 years now, since Mr. Sullivan was a new board attorney.
The pictures that you have here, is that from the studio that you had in Queens?
No, this is the studio in Montclair.
Oh, this is the studio in Montclair, okay. Okay. And there's a kind of a waiting room area there?
Yes, so the one where you see the gold couch, that's where a client would fill out the form, give me their ID. This is also initially where I would show them the design, and we would speak, if there's any size changes or et cetera to be made before they actually go and get tattooed.
I mean, okay. Since it's like during the daytime and stuff like that, your safety has never been a concern in this, in these things at all.
Can you rephrase the question?
Well, I mean, like you're in a studio by yourself, but
Yes.
you're during the day, so you've never been concerned about that at all.
Yes, so when I had my studio in Astoria, it was a very similar setup. I've never had issues there.
Okay, thank you.
And you have the pre-screening process too. And the credit card, right? They got to pay you first.
They pay me after the project is completed.
Oh, I thought they have to.
But the deposit is first.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So
And that deposit, that stuff takes place not in the studio, that takes place
Yes, so
on the internet?
they would send me deposit electronically through
So all that
PayPal or
stuff's
Zelle.
in- Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay,
I was concerned about that as well, Mr. Caulfield. So, people don't usually, put up a couple $100, in cash and then cause a problem after with their credit card.
Okay. On the days where you're doing half-day appointments, what's the gap between the 2 customers?
I usually take at least 20 minutes between them.
Is there a situation where one customer could arrive before, the afternoon customer arrives before the morning customer's done?
In rare cases, if they show up early, but most of the time I schedule them so they don't overlap.
Okay, and if they do arrive early, is there this place where they can sit, or?
Yes, so if you see in the picture where there's the golden couch, they could sit there and wait.
Any other questions from members of the board? Just for the sake of anyone hiding behind the chairs, is there any member of the public who has questions for this witness? Mr. Skolnick, you want to call your
Yeah,
planner?
we'll call our planner, Chris. Yep, you can call up.
All right, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and address.
My name is Christopher Colley, Colley. My business address is 60 Union Street, Unit 1N, Newark, New Jersey.
And can you provide your professional qualifications, sir?
Yes, I can. I am a principal with the firm Topology. We're a planning firm based in Newark. I have a master's degree in urban planning from Harvard Graduate School of Design. I've been licensed via the AICP for about 5 years, and I've been a professional planner in New Jersey for about 3 years. Both of my license is current and in good standing, and I've testified in front of a number of boards across the state, some of which include Westfield, Fanwood, Cranberry, Edgewater, Boonton, a couple others.
Okay, and you've been recognized as an expert in the field of professional planning by those boards?
Yes, I have.
Okay, Chairman, I'll submit This witness is an expert in the field of professional planning.
We'll accept him.
We appreciate that. Okay, Chris, you've had an opportunity to look at the application, the building. Can you talk about the planning considerations in light of the, what I call Medici case, and the criteria in there?
I absolutely can. Thank you very much. Thanks for allowing me to be here this evening. I'm excited to have a chance to work on this application. In preparation for this meeting, I had a chance to review the professional reports that were prepared. I went to the site, reviewed the zoning codes, reviewed the master plans. Really, my job tonight, as the board is probably well aware, is to walk through the variance that's being requested and provide an overview of the various tests that you need to meet for a use variance, and explain why it's my opinion that this board could lawfully grant this variance. Barring any concerns, that's what I'm going to start doing right now. Okay. All right. So the site, as it was described before, it's located on the corner of Park and Church. I assume most of the board members are very familiar with it. We did submit site photos, which hopefully you had a chance to review. It's called the Schultz Building. Some of the other uses in the site were discussed and described previously, but it's a mixture of commercial uses. There's a medical office, there's an acupuncturist, there's a beauty studio, various other sort of commercial uses of that type on the second floor and on the lower level. Our request tonight is to be able to reoccupy this 300 square foot space. I will sort of touch on one other thing that wasn't mentioned in the previous description as it relates to the windows. So just to be clear, so the window that actually our site has is really on the east side of the building. So it's not on any of the street frontages. It sort of faces going down Church, but not on the Church Street frontage. The proposal will require a D variance, D1 variance for use, as tattoo parlors are not a permitted use in this zone. As you'll hear from me tonight, and you've already heard a little bit from Mr. Skolnick and Ms. Delmar, we think the nature of the tattoo use that we are proposing this evening is quite different from what you might have traditionally understood a tattoo parlor to be, and that the variances can be appropriately granted. So moving into my obligation for each of the proofs, we need to demonstrate that the application promotes the general welfare via special reason. There we need to demonstrate, maybe most importantly, the particular suitability of the site for the proposed use. We need to demonstrate an enhanced quality of proof on the negative side, showing a consistency or not inconsistency between the master plan, the zoning, and the proposal. And we need to address the negative criteria. And finally, we also need to reconcile why the use is not permitted in the master plan and the zoning. So,
Keep going.
Keep going. Okay. All right. I thought I
going.
heard you just jump in.
Keep going.
All right. So, does the use promote the general welfare because the proposed site is particularly suitable for the proposed use? So, particular use for particular site. So, I just want to look at both use and site in some detail with you. We've sort of been referring to this as tattoo parlor, tattoo studio. There are a lot of limitations specific to this use that is being proposed. Really objective, I think measurable limitations that go beyond just the operator that differentiate it from this sort of traditional understanding of a tattoo parlor. There's no definition for a tattoo parlor in the zoning, but I think using local examples, these are typically ground floor retail spaces. They're typically visible. They typically have signage, and we're different from that. This application is different from that for all those reasons. Some of the key differences: one, it's a one operator. This is not a multiple artist location. That's enforced both, frankly, by the intent of the operator and her willingness to comply with that condition, but also just the size. It's a very small space. It's got room for one in there. By appointment only, again, sort of difference from traditional, no queue of people, no walk-ins, a limited number of customers, lack of visibility, and again, lack of signage. So really the use, the particular nature of the use, really more akin to a psychologist's office, an art studio, more so than a sort of traditional tattoo parlor. So that's the sort of particular nature of the use. So what is particularly suitable, or what is particularly specific about the site that makes it suitable for the use? I have three real key points on this, starting with context. So this is a use that's being proposed in an area that, while it does prohibit the use, is a generally commercial zone and permits other uses that sort of share a similar level of intensity and a similar nature of operational characteristics as the one proposed. Art studios are permitted in this zone. Offices are permitted in this zone. Other uses in the building, massage therapy, guitar studio, acupuncture, things that are sort of similar operationally and intensity-wise to the tattoo studio as it's proposed. It also is located in an area that your master plan identifies as a location for encouraging the arts. It's in this arts and entertainment area of the Montclair Center Plan. And one of your goals related to that deals with encouraging the location of retail, entertainment, and services that complement Arts District. The nature of this tattoo studio, as it's described and as it's restricted, in my mind, is that type of service that complements arts districts and sort of contributes to that arts ecosystem that your master plan seems to be promoting. Context particularly suited. More specifically, though, to the actual physical characteristic of this site and this building, there are two other sort of key elements of suitability. And the first one, I think, is scale. So this is a very small space. This is a 300 square foot space that the number of potential operators to reuse is very limited. This is a space that, size-wise, is perfectly suited for a single operator operating with one customer at a time with maybe one guest. There's no real opportunity to do anything much more than that or beyond that. And because of that scale, I think this site is particularly suited for that. And then finally, the visibility of the site makes it particularly suited for this use. So the prohibition of the tattoo parlor implies that there was some nuisance associated with the use, right? And maybe that nuisance is a visual nuisance, an appearance, right? As I said, these studios are typically ground floors. They've got signage. You can look in them. That's not what's happening here. This is a site that if you're on the street, you don't know it's there. There's no visibility. As I said, there's no signage. And for that reason, it sort of eliminates the potential for nuisance, visual nuisance, and again, would be particularly suited for the use.
In terms of the negative criteria?
Sure. I can jump there. Okay, negative criteria. Thank you, Mr.
Do you see
Skolnick.
any detriments to the
Yeah, right.
surrounding public good, the surrounding properties here?
Sure. So I think typically the types of detriment that might be associated with a tattoo parlor have been sort of touched on. Maybe noise, maybe people queuing, trash, loitering. Those things here, with the nature of the use as it's proposed, are really mitigated by the specifics of the operation. Again, the appointments, the lack of visibility. So no, I don't see any substantial detriment to the public good that would be associated with the use. As it relates to the enhanced quality of proof and reconciling why this use is not listed in the permitted tables, as the planner 2 applications ago mentioned, this is often about what's changed in the community or what's changed about the use that we can point to that explains, well, maybe why it wasn't there. I think there's it's informative to look at the other uses that are listed in the prohibited uses section of the zoning for this, and those include adult entertainment, head shops, the sale of firearms, and you can understand, I suppose, why a tattoo shop at an unrestricted level was lumped in with those. What we're proposing here, as I've said several times, is a very much more restricted operation of the tattoo shop, a sort of tattoo shop that limits its customers by design, by the nature of its appointment. And on that basis, I think sort of reconciling why it's not there makes sense, because what we are proposing and the restrictions that we're prepared to accept differs from this unrestricted tattoo shop that's prohibited.
So that allows you to reconcile the lack of this use being permitted with what's going to happen here in practice.
I believe so.
That's a reasonable reconciliation.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
And then I haven't touched on substantial impairment of the intent of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. This is the other enhanced quality of proof we have to put on. stating that the variance is not inconsistent with the purpose of the master plan or the zoning ordinance. You include in your zoning ordinance a purpose for this zone. I'll paraphrase it, to preserve and reinforce the character of the historic business district, and to support the burgeoning cultural and entertainment-related uses that characterize the area. I think those are the two key phrases in there. This variance would certainly not be inconsistent with those. It would not interrupt the historic character or streetscape of the building. There's no construction happening. And I think that phrase of supporting the burgeoning cultural uses, the nature of the tattoo use as proposed is very much in line with again, that sort of aim at creating a cultural area. It's not inconsistent, in my opinion, with those provisions of the zoning ordinance. And then as it relates to the master plan, you don't specifically address tattoos in the 15 REX, 16 REX, or 23 land use circulation plan, but you do speak to objectives in this area. So in this Montclair Center focus area, you talk about how upper floors of buildings are in some cases experiencing higher vacancies, which this would address, about how growth needs to be done without adversely affecting characteristics of place. I think we made the case as a very low impact use from a low impact use. You also, as I mentioned, identify this as being in the arts and entertainment area, and I think we've sort of established the artistic credibility of the applicant and of the use as described. And then I'll just finally say, Mr. Skolnick, and then I'll wrap. You also identified this in the master plan as in the urban edge land use classification, and there's a provision in there. It says permitted uses should be defined according to generic categories and not specify exact retail types, since exact types change quickly with time. And I think what the board is hearing today is sort of a new type of a tattoo shop than might have been previously contemplated. So based on all of that, it's my opinion that the granting of this variance wouldn't be inconsistent with the master plan or the zoning, and also that the applicant meets the legal proofs and that the board, should it choose to, could lawfully grant the variance. Thank you.
We're a little truncated, but the hour is late, so
No questions.
you'll let us know if you need more testimony.
I will do that.
Okay.
Mr. Church,
No.
Sarah, Mr. Vieira,
No question.
Mr. Cruz,
No questions.
Mr. Caulfield.
Nope.
I'm not gonna let you off that.
Okay.
Are there any zones in town? Are there any zones in town where tattoo parlors are allowed?
Not that I identified, no.
I think it is allowed in the C2 zone. Did you check
Took a
that?
look at that?
Yeah, I didn't think so.
We couldn't find it.
Anyway.
And did you look, the applicant testified that there are other tattoo shops in town. Did you look at where those are located, what zones those are located in?
I didn't look at them in terms of their zoning. I did, when I was discussing sort of local examples and what they typically look like, I did look at both of the two establishments that I found. And that's sort of what I based that on. They're both ground floor retail. They both have signage consistent with retail. And then that's where I was sort of drawing that comparison on that basis.
When you, I assume you've looked at A1 and the examples of the applicant's work?
Yes.
How would you compare that work to the, let me get the right words, art studios that are allowed in the zone, in terms of, which is a defined term?
How would I compare it?
To the
Is
art
it-
studios.
Which,
Art studio is a permitted use.
yes.
So you're set, well, we'll take that, I think.
Sometimes
it
I'm
was-
helpful, sometimes I'm not helpful.
Okay, so you say, look, is this sort of an art
Yeah.
studio? Yes.
Well,
Yes, I would say yes as the attorney. Do you want to say
We
as
are
the
more
planner?
interested in the planner.
I actually, so when we're talking about what uses intensity-wise is this similar to, I think one thing that you could liken this to would be if I'm having my portrait painted by an artist and I'm going into a space to do that and I'm sitting there for them. In one case, someone is painting my portrait on an oil canvas. In the other case, someone is painting on my body. But in terms of the functionality of the use, I think they're very similar.
And unless I'm missing something, I do not see tattoo parlors as a permitted use in the C2 zone, but on the other hand, it's one of the zones where it's not a prohibited use.
That's what I was trying to say. It's not prohibited.
I'm not quite sure what to make of that, and I don't, unless you have something you want to make of.
I also saw it wasn't on the permitted use, which is why I assumed that it would be prohibited, because it's not explicitly permitted.
It's an interesting way, and, of, and
Footnote 11 of the Medici case talks about this. Uses change over time, and zoning ordinances don't catch up immediately. And that's recognized as one of the reasons for a D1.
And just so it's clear, are there any members of the audience who are hiding but want to speak or ask questions about the application? Okay. Mr. Skolnick, you want to sum up?
No, the night is late, so we do need the 5 votes. I think the board appreciates that on the D1. If you have any concerns, please let us know. We'll do our best to address them, but we think certainly there's proofs here with reasonable conditions that the board can grant this application.
Okay, we'll start discussion. Mr. Church?
In the, looking at the exhibit that was given to us, I do see this akin to an art studio rather than a tattoo parlor. The amount of detail is unbelievable. I believe that the increase in clients would harm what she's trying to achieve here, so that it should be restricted, I think, to what she has now, not to make it any bigger, not to try to expand. It's a difficult area to maintain a business in, mainly because of where it is. The rents are huge. It's right in the middle of town. It's an ideal location for her. So because I would not think of it as a tattoo parlor, I would vote in favor of this application.
Ms. Harris?
Yeah, I agree that this is not a tattoo parlor in the traditional sense that we think of a tattoo parlor, and I think that the way it's going to be operated, I don't know that anybody will know that it's there unless they're looking for it. So I would be in favor of granting this use.
Mr. Vieira?
I'm also in favor of this application.
Mr. Cruz?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the qualifications that you've shown, the restrictions you've suggested, it all lines up. I'm in favor of this application.
Mr. Caulfield?
I'm in favor, and thanks again for opening up the business in Montclair.
Mr. McCulloch?
I'm in favor as well.
I'm also in favor. And Mr. Skolnick, as you know, through the many seminars you conducted, when Medici first came out, you're never going to get a use variance for a commercial use. And, since then, the cases, have recognized some practical realities. And I think this is a classic case of that. Well, technically, this is a tattoo parlor, even though the term's not defined. It is much more akin to some of the permitted uses in the zone, and the location, all the, horrors that, I think people associated with tattoo parlors, which, the people who got tattoos when I was a young person are very different than the people who get tattoos now. It's a whole different thing. I have no objection to people playing rock if she's not disturbing the other tenants in the building, or any other music she wants. But, I think this is, no one's going to know it's there. It's just the reality, other than the customers and the other tenants on that floor is, so I think certainly there's, even though it's a prohibited use, which normally would mitigate against finding that it's not a substantial impairment of the zone plan, I think given what's proposed here, it is not, and it's certainly not any detriment to the public good. I think the only conditions, unless other board members have other thoughts, is that there only be one employee there. So in the event, whatever reason, if she has an associate and she wants to go on vacation or whatever, I don't want to say only the owner, and that there never be more than 2 customers present just to deal with the occasional overlap. But I think the space dictates, and if both of those customers each come with a friend, I think it's unlikely, but I'm not trying to preclude that. It'd just be no more than 2 customers at any time to deal with the limited overlap opportunities. And any other thoughts from members of the board? And if not, someone want to move approval with those conditions?
Just a question. So you're saying no more than 2 customers, but if they bring along 2 friends, that's fine, as long as they're not being serviced?
Right.
Okay. Should we limit it to 4 people in the space besides the?
I want to, I don't want to end up with 4 customers, I guess is, so if you want to do two customers, each of whom is entitled to have 1 companion, we can do it that way. If no other discussion, someone want to make a motion to approve it with those conditions?
I will make a motion to approve with the conditions just discussed.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hope you're up and running soon. You will not see
Thank
me
you
in
for your
spite of what
time.
Mr. Skolnick may think.
Chairman, I just did a doggy daycare facility out in Long Hill, and the board member said I'm going to be the first customer. We were hoping for that, but. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? All
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstaining? Okay, fine.
Nobody's voting against it.
I know.
Hi, good night, everybody.
When's our next meeting?